So understanding any particular issue, whether you're wanting to look at inflation, if you're wanting to look at the supply chain, if you're wanting to look at COVID policy or whatever type of policy that you want to look at, all of these things have different economic implications of them, and they are all in their own right remarkably complicated.
We continue with more Heard Tell right after this.
How far would you go if you had a group of strong, amazing people who support, motivate, and inspire one another to achieve their fitness goals and dreams? At Full Circle Fitness, we aren't just a place to work out. We're a community of amazing people who work together to reclaim our bodies and do things we thought we'd never be able to do again. Ready to set your fears aside and stop making excuses? Call today, Full Circle Fitness, 910-399-8350, or visit FullCircleFitnessNC.com.
I am State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better place. Visit us online at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Government has become too big, too overtaxing, and is constantly overregulating every aspect of your life.
If you agree with that, tune into Consumer Choice Radio every Saturday at 10 a.m. here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM. With me, Yael Osowski.
And me, David Clement. For an hour, you'll get expert analysis on what the government is sinking its teeth into next, and how you, as a consumer, can push back.
ConsumerChoiceRadio.com.
Hello, this is Kevin with the God and Country Minute. Imagine $1 million. Now imagine $1 million multiplied 1,000 times. That's $1 billion. Now imagine $1 billion multiplied over 400 times. That's how much a man named John was worth when he died in May of 1937. More than $400 billion. Now if you lived 100 years and spent $10 million a day, 365 days a year, you'd still have money left over when you died. Someone asked an associate of John how much money he left behind the day he passed away, and the associate simply said, all of it. Now, John did leave all of his money behind, but he did take one thing with him the day that he died. He took Jesus Christ. You see, John D. Rockefeller had accepted Christ as his Savior many years before. It's amazing that it wasn't the $400 billion that made all the difference to John the day he took his last breath, but the blood of Christ that covered all of his sins. That's something to think about. Remember, God loves you, and God has a plan for your life.
If you want to talk about culture and politics without all the caterwauling, then you'll love Heard Tell Radio with me, your host, Andrew Donaldson, every weekday morning, 6 a.m. with a replay at 3 p.m. right here on the Big Talker. Catch it on the Listen Live tab on the app or watch on the Facebook page.
Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
I'm Andrew Donaldson. Welcome back to Heard Tell. Thank you so much for joining us today. A little bit different episode, doing a little bit of recapping, but we're proud of what we do here. So if you would, we'd sure appreciate you leaving a rating and a comment, however you're watching this on any of the podcasting platforms on YouTube. Make sure you comment. We will respond to those comments as well. If you really want to do us a solid, share us on your social media. It only costs you a click, but it's a big deal to us. Lets people know that our little program is worth their time, because we never want to disrespect your time. It's the most precious thing you give us. We want to continue to give you the best information we possibly can, the best discussion, the most knowledgeable guests, voices you probably won't hear anywhere else, but that's how we turn down the noise of the news cycle and get to the information we need to discern our times. You can follow us on social media at Heard Tell Show on Twitter, heardtellshow@gmail.com. If you want to email us, you can also follow me at Fourth of the Fire on the Twitter. And if you comment on any of those platforms I just mentioned, we'll make sure to respond to you. That'll do it for Heard Tell. We have very special guests tomorrow coming up. We're going to do a little bit of end of the year review. Already have great guests lined up for the first of the year come next week. We've kind of been slow rolling Heard Tell out. We just kind of started doing it. Some situations lined up for us to do it weekdays. You folks have responded. We greatly appreciate you. Thank you so very much. We'll finish out 2021 tomorrow See you then. Until then, y'all take care wherever you are, across the street or around the world. We hope you're well. We hope you're well fed. And we'll see you tomorrow on the last day of 20. All the music on Heard Tell is provided under a Creative Content license from monstercat.com.
Somos la máquina.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWA News. The British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell has been convicted of helping lure teenage girls to be sexually abused by the late Jeffrey Epstein. Yesterday's verdict comes after a month-long trial featuring accounts of the sexual exploitation of girls as young as 14. Jurors found Maxwell guilty of every count except one. She faces years in prison. Maxwell's lawyers say she's being used as a scapegoat for crimes committed by Epstein, who killed himself in 2019. Presidents Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin are set to discuss the Russian troop buildup at the Ukraine border. The call, scheduled for this afternoon, would be their second in recent weeks. According to the White House, Biden will make clear to Putin that a democratic path remains open. The Russians have moved an estimated 100,000 troops toward Ukraine, and Putin has stepped up his demands for security guarantees in Eastern Europe. Back in the Cape Fear, with COVID numbers rising and COVID tests hard to find, New Hanover County Health and Human Services is hosting a free testing event today. The drive-through testing event runs from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Health and Human Services Annex at 1507 Greenfield Street. No ID or insurance information is required, and the results of the test will be shared in about 15 minutes. 630 tests will be available. Health and Human Services Director Donna Faco says they want to keep people out of waiting rooms to help stop the potential spread of Omicron. And at UNCW, students and staff who are unvaccinated will still need to take a COVID test before coming back to campus in January. Return to campus testing will happen in the Warwick Ballroom number 4. They begin testing Tuesday and run until next Sunday. Allow at least 45 minutes to be tested and get your result and clearance letter. For more on these stories, head over to WWAY-TV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm meteorologist Helen Holt with your WWAY Storm Track 3 AccuWeather forecast. We'll see mostly cloudy skies today and warm temperatures, highs in the upper 70s away from the beaches. There's a chance for a few showers and maybe an isolated thunderstorm, a very small risk that those could turn severe. We'll have southwest winds 10 to 20 miles per hour, mostly cloudy tonight with a chance for rain, then patchy fog late, lows in the lower 60s. New Year's Eve looking dry and warm, highs back into the 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAY-TV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
This show is also sponsored by Dr. Tony Maglione. Dr. Tony is a cardiologist practicing in Wilmington. He accepts Medicare patients, and his office is located across the street from New Hanover Regional Medical Center at 2032 17th Street. The office number is 202-1071. Dr. Tony is an author whose last book is Rules for Conservative Patriots, and it can be purchased on Amazon. His website is www.drtonymag.com.
Folks, you know you're all looking for that special gift. Lines are long, traffic is frustrating, supply chains in the news. Just take a deep breath. If you're anywhere near Oak Island, come by Seaside Jewelers, 8801 East Oak Island Drive. Avoid the traffic, the lines, the frustration, and get that extraordinary and special gift. From high-end diamond rings to Larimar, from necklaces to bracelets, watches, and unique jewelry. And you also get one-on-one service with their experienced staff. Great prices now, just in time for the holidays. Come by and check out Seaside Jewelers, 8801 East Oak Island Drive.
If you want to talk about culture and politics without all the caterwauling, then you'll love Heard Tell Radio with me, your host, Andrew Donaldson, every weekday morning, 6 a.m. with a replay at 3 p.m. right here on the Big Talker. Catch it on the Listen Live tab on the app or watch on the Facebook page.
Good morning, kids. That's right, it's time. So wake up, get at it, get at them. Get going. Here on the Asylum on the Big Talker Online. It's going to be a beautiful day up in the 70s. Just enough to make you bang your head. That's right, here on the Asylum on the Big Talker Online. Hope your holidays were awesome. This is the last couple of days before the blowout of 2021. Goodbye and hello 2022. I'm not saying hello yet because I don't know how long I want you to stay. Yes, lots of choices, lots of things happening right now. And of course, if you're going to the New Year's, make sure you take your friends Delta and Omicron with you. Just because they're good at tiddlywinks and they cannot be beat at Trivial Pursuit. So the other day, I think it was yesterday, day before, Mr. Andrew Donaldson from Ordinary-Times had Michael Segal, I'm going to say that wrong, and Michael's article on the actual James Webb Space Telescope being deployed is, it's pretty informative. I mean, it's like if you could ask a smart person the questions that you're curious about, this article is all of those. It's now drawing power from its own solar panels, which means it's autonomous at this point. Of course, it took a while to get up there. I don't know if any of you remember any of the sci-fi of the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s. That's when I was introduced to the L1, L2, L3, L4 points. Lagrange, however you want to pronounce it. Fascinating stuff. It involves astrophysics, which was the most fun course I ever had in college. Because you get to take the boring physics, 1/2 AT squared, and other things, and put them into perspective. Like the creation of the L point, or what it is, it's actually a gravity well, or if you have a two-body problem in the Newton in your physics class, you discover that there's many things happening, and when a body is going through its orbit, along with two other pieces, the balance of gravity between the sun and the earth, there's going to be a neutral point, and it's a little closer to the earth than the sun because the sun has a lot more gravity. And the same thing happens on the opposite side of the Earth, and same in front of our path in the orbit around, and behind us, plus between the moon and the Earth. It's fascinating. So if anybody has trouble with Lagrange points, I highly recommend taking an Astrophysics 102 course, and it'll really help. But if you don't understand physics, you don't understand condensation, and think chemtrails in the sky are going to kill you, then yeah, you need to go back to elementary school and start over. Isn't that right, Dustin?
That is very right.
Nobody else made it, right. So here we are.
Sir Isaac Newton, he brought us a little far. Some other people brought us farther. Who knows? Somebody else could learn something and take us even further than that.
That's why I'm all about this Michael Segal article this morning on Ordinary-Times, because it's like the nerd in me that wants to ask all the really, like, questions that embarrass my mom. Oh, don't ask him that. And the only reason why it embarrassed my mom is that she had no idea what I was talking about and therefore didn't think that I knew what I was talking about when asking a smart person about things like, hey, how do you get this thing to open up and deploy those, it's Mylar. I mean, have you ever tried to deploy saran wrap without tearing it?
No, but I did try to use those little parachute guys with little plastic soldier.
Oh, you shoot him up in the air and he floats down?
Yeah. We
Now-
got some of those for Christmas.
And how
they've
many-
actually
I was going to say, how many survived?
Oh man, we got the same stats.
It was carnage.
We got like the same stats as World War II. Only these guys aren't taking like, German gunfire.
Yeah, but at least you can like melt these back together.
The
Right.
ones we got now, they have new ones now where it's like plastic. I mean, there's no plastic. It's just fabric and netting, and it works so much better. I remember when we had the string, all these different strings, and then the plastic parachute. The guy get tangled up, he'd suffocate before he even gets to the ground.
Oh, yeah, he gets hung by his own parachute cord.
These ones you swing around like a sling, almost like you're gonna hit Goliath in the head. You let them go, and man, they come down nice and gently every time. Well, I won't say every time. There have been a select few that
Well,
and you gotta
imagine trying to unfold that little thin parachute, but it's like, what, 16 feet across or something ridiculous?
See, I've never
And
gone.
then you can't touch it. You have to. Sorry?
I've wanted to go skydiving, but I've never done it, man.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely, I've done the pop and hop off the little platform, and that's frightening enough.
The pop and hop off? What's that?
So it's part of the training. My uncle used to do some of the training down at Fort Bragg. And you get a platform that's about 10 or 15 feet in the air. And you have like this, it might be 20 feet. And you have this semi-parachute that's attached to you that's also attached to a rigging rig. And the idea is that you get used to the jerk feeling in your shoulders when you jump. So you're not actually jumping out of an airplane. You're jumping off of a very tall platform, but you're going to get that same sensation of your parachute deploying when you're falling through the sky, and it just yanks you up by your armpits.
I've heard of some safety courses like that for people who use harnesses to do work on lifts and stuff.
I could see that.
Yeah. But nah, that sounds pretty fun. Does it really jerk you like that?
Depending on your body weight, if you weigh 300 pounds, it will dislocate an arm, and I weighed like $110, maybe 100 pounds, maybe.
I feel like a stuffed turkey hanging in that thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, and the thing is, you can't. If you raise your arms, you're done, right? You have to, because that's the only thing holding you on is your armpits. So that was the first damage I think I did to the rotator cuffs on both sides of my body. And I mean, I've spoken to a number of airborne cats that have. That's why their back is jacked, is because of the amount of torque. When they have to wait a long time to pop, 1/2 AT squared only goes up. There is no deceleration in free fall, right? You hit maximum at some point. And when you're doing that, right, all of that 1/2 AT squared momentum is headed down. You open that parachute, and it's now going the other direction just as violently. And it's amazing we haven't torn more human beings asunder with such wonderful toys that we invented. But the point being, somewhere, a million miles from here, this guy is delicately unfolding one little flap at a time. What seems to be 20, I'm not sure I have the numbers right, 6.5 meters, 18, and yeah, we're looking at about 21 foot parachute. That's thin, like the ones your little G.I. Joe guys were doing. But you can't touch it. And it's a million miles away, and you have to send one little command at a time to unfold the erector set type thing, right? That, to me, is absolutely fascinating.
Tedious. That guy had to be good at Legos growing up.
That
Stuff
and
like-
programming each line of code so that you will wait 3 seconds, and then you will move this arm 3 degrees in that direction. You will wait 4 seconds. I mean, imagine all the steps it takes just to make, like, a cup of coffee. And then write a line of code for each thing that has to happen to make that cup of coffee. From a million miles away. All right? These are smart people. These are the people that, like, if we're going to have any hope to survive, we're going to need people like that.
And I'm glad that the kids are catching on. Like, when over at the school, they're teaching kids in elementary school how to code, how to use tabs, and all this stuff that I have no idea how to do. These kids in elementary school, they're picking up and they're treating it almost like a game. They think it's almost fun.
That's the best way to teach it, as learned by Mark Rober. He did an entire TED Talk about it, where he created a game, and he made 2 versions. One, you got these imaginary points that you could use in an imaginary store. They're actually not worth anything at all. The other version had no score at all. It didn't even have a timer. It just said, figure this out. And the thing was, the game that didn't have points was solved faster by more people because they didn't feel the pressure or the additional weight of trying to win something. They just did it to do it, right? I mean, it's like, why did we go to the moon? Because we haven't, so let's do it, right? Why are we going to Mars? Because we haven't been there. Hey, let's try it.
It was all, I mean, there was a little bit of conquering, a little bit of conquest into it. I mean, there were people, it was a pride point to put that flag in the moon. It was a pride point.
Well, like, if you look at it from the human race point of view and get away from the borders, the entire fact that we went to the moon has been a dream of ours for several thousand years, like since Ptolemy and Newton first stared up and said, hey, I wonder what that is, right?
Well, that hits at a bigger question. Do you think we actually went to the moon? Like, I'm 100%, one of those two. I think we've been to the moon.
100%.
I think so, too.
And, again, this is going to go back to my thing where if you're that ignorant, then, yeah, you need to go back to school. You need to go back to elementary school and understand that apples and oranges are not the same thing. If you have 2 apples and 3 oranges, you have 5 fruit, but you only have 2 apples. You may have 5 fruits, but only 2 of them are apples. And if you try to take this into chemtrails and we never went to the moon, I have no time for that. You can go back to elementary school. We'll find you new teachers if we need to, because that's just ignorant.
Well, the flag. Say people, I know one of the first things everybody pointed to say the moon landing was false was the flag. The flag would be moving. And they're like, no. The flag would not be moving. Not
Again, the ignorance of these people who have been through public education and never questioned their own intelligence, which they should. That person should have been flogged in public. Moving flag in no atmosphere. What are you thinking?
I'll tell you who should have been flogged, man. The people who designed the space food. I've tried some of that stuff.
Oh, have you had the spaceman ice cream sandwich?
Torture. Oh no, we think they go up there and eat Dippin' Dots and stuff all the time, but no, they got those tubes of paste and I remember I tried some, and man, I feel bad for those guys. They got to go up there and eat burrito out of a tube and stuff.
I don't feel bad for them. The fact that we got food to them is its own miracle of modern technology. Right? I mean, it's not like you're going to get a Waffle House full spread Grand Slam breakfast with syrup. Not happening. Can you imagine it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you're hammered out of your mind, you got a Waffle House meal floating in space. That syrup going to get everywhere. And I tell you what, you don't want syrup, dribbling down into your oxygen supply system, right? So I'm going to go with the tubes.
You get syrup all over the console, all over the little switches.
Everything's sticky. Everything's sticky like your bedroom. That would be bad. That's not how you fly an aircraft. Fly a spaceship or...
3 or 4 people in a small little tin can eating a bunch of Waffle House doesn't sound like it's going to have a good after effect.
So if you remember 2001, they took 2 space trips where you see the guy eating. One is on the way to the moon base, and one is to the space station, and then one is to the moon base. On the way to the moon base, the boys pull out your basic igloo cooler with sandwiches and coffee in there like they just bebopping on a on a bus on the way out to the desert or something. It's absolutely hilarious. They're pouring coffee like it's no big deal. It's like, dude, do you realize the coffee would be floating out of the container at that point? But that's cool. That's cool. You got a lot of other things right.
The biggest thing that struck me as far as the moon landing and everything was when they went to Glenn and they wanted him to put his hand on the Bible and swear that he had went up there. And he punched the guy. He punched the guy who gave him. I would too,
man. You insulting little dweeb. Get out of my face. As soon as you can get a degree that understands anything more than, no, just get out of it. It's like trying to argue with somebody, my stepfather has I know he has at least one, if not two PhDs, engineering and physics, right? And he worked with the Senate Arms Committee. He worked with Sandia National Laboratories. So when some punk kid comes up and it's like, why can't you do anything about those chemtrails? You're going to kill us all. It was everything he could not to punt that dude. You feel me? Because when you've already done the accomplishment, like it's like telling Usain Bolt, I can run faster than you. It's like you don't even want to bother with a guy. You just want to kick him. Right?
I can never blame people for being skeptic, especially the way they're
skeptic and they're stupid.
Well, there's some things you should be skeptic about. Like, I can't blame people for being skeptic and pointing out certain details and everything. Especially when you look at other countries and how they push propaganda on their own people. I mean, if it were Russia, Russia would have faked it. Russia would have made a video, some cosmonaut out there.
They didn't need to. They won. I mean, they were in space with a human being and a dog and a monkey before we were. But our little butt-hurt feelings, we had to go directly to the moon.
Yeah, but what was the survival rate on those dogs and monkeys and the guy they shot up into space?
I think they lost one dog, and it wasn't until the third mission that they lost a human.
So, I mean,
but if you're going to crack eggs and make an omelet, man, that's the space omelet to consider. Right? I mean, if it blows up and it takes 5 people with it, it's going to be a heartbreaking and learning experience.
I mean, and now here it is, 2021, days away from 2022. And like you said, Lagrange, they're what that guy's doing with the flaps and the satellite, it's tedious, time-consuming. But the technology for him to be able to do that, that's an advancement. I mean, we fought years ago just to send somebody up there, and we still have problems. I mean, it wasn't too long ago we had the Challenger.
And now we're looking at, I'm doing deployment timeline. Took 30 minutes for the solar array to deploy. Took 2 hours for the gimbaled antenna array to deploy. Sunshine forward UPS deployment took 2 days. Or no, it started on the second day. 3 days for Sunshield aft. So we're, you're talking tedious where you think, it's going to be 5 minutes to get your coffee made. These guys have to wait like 2 or 3 days and then get back some information, make sure everything's right, and then they can send the next command. That's just, it's like telling somebody, hey, turn left, and then waiting 20 minutes. They make the turn. They tell you 20 minutes later they made a turn, and now you have to determine if it was the correct turn or not. I mean, we think lag just between the cell phone that you're on and my system here in the garage is bad.
Yeah, we're cursing Microsoft. We're cursing Microsoft.
Right.
Spectrum.
And, we have trouble with our microwave. My burrito took longer than normal, and it's still cold in the middle. Because you were impatient and didn't follow the directions where it says, for best results, do this. Which usually means, like cut it open, turn it sideways, let it sit, let the energy that's in there sort of dissipate so you're not nuking an ice cube. But we don't read. At all. We don't read books. We don't read manuals. I know I don't. I mean, I stole the entire station and left every manual sitting there. Because the equipment was heavy enough. I wasn't about to carry a tree's worth of typing with me as well. So I have since gotten the manuals. Actually, I downloaded them all in PDF format to save yet another tree, and discovered a few things about my system that, well, obviously I didn't know them, or it would not have caused me problems and grief previously. Right? So I'm thinking if I had read the manual on the Space Webb Telescope before I got involved, I may not have crashed it into, an asteroid or one of the Starlink satellites, which is why people in Ghana don't have satellite or don't have internet for a few hours.
Ow.
Yeah, not going out of the sky. That's why they don't give me the remote or the joystick. But that's the stuff that's fascinating. That if we're going to be if we're going to be a group of people that survives, I want to be on the team that's like looking at the stars and doing stuff. And if it all does go sideways, I do know I've been named as a person in a tribe, but that would be, I would have a position in the tribe because I know how to make electricity and I know how to make electricity work, even in the most dire of circumstances. Right? So
you're an essential employee.
I will be an essential employee. So when that EMP comes from the nuclear blast and knocks out all electronics, I will be the first one with a water pump. That's my plan. Right? Because we're going to need fresh water, and we're going to need to pump it a long distance. Because I don't want everybody down at the river bathing in it. That's just nasty. I will make a pump, and I will pump it out of here and into your tub.
I mean, we've got those problems as it is.
Right.
I mean, Gen X has been in the water out here for years and years and years and years.
It's a flavoring. That's the part that people don't understand. They didn't do it to us nefariously or maliciously. No. They're trying to, because water tastes like dirt. But if you add Chemex, it tastes like poison, which tastes better than dirt, which is why everybody drinks alcohol, because poison tastes better than dirt. Alcohol, you do realize, is a poison to the human body.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Not a lot of people get that. They think it's, like some sort
Trust
of
me,
spice.
drink a La Cabo Wabo. You'll the next morning, it'll remind you, yes, it's poison.
I mean, it's my dad's point of view. Dad was a doctor. He was an internal medicine specialist. And one of his things, besides being an absolute, floored out alcoholic, was the human body is not designed to take in flammable contents. As he's swigging down, 90 proof gin that, we used to start our fire when we were up shopping for or cutting down trees.
Drinking the stuff they put in the space shuttle to make it go up.
That's what I'm saying, right? And of course, I find that kind of funny, right? Because we use O2, liquid O2, as a oxidizer to allow us to have combustion in space, because there is no air in space to make your rocket work. So you have to use hydrogen and liquid oxygen. The thing is, liquid oxygen will kill you. You touch that stuff and you're done. The temperature at which frozen liquid oxygen remains liquid will kill you. But without oxygen, we die. So I guess maybe there's a balance in there. Right? Because we love ice cream, but if we try to survive eating only ice cream, our body doesn't respond well. And I'm thinking as a society, it's a similar thing, that too much of the things that we, too much of the Marvel and too much of the Matrix and too much of the Mandalorian crap really screws up our diet. And we need things like, I don't know, Officer and a Gentleman or The English Patient. We need something to sort of put the humanity back into it rather than the comedy and the outlandish BS. Which was part of the conversation that Andrew had with one of the educated minds of our generation, talking about critical race theory and how it is impossible to not have a fight when that comes up. It's just impossible. There is no middle ground to it. You're either on one end or the other. There's no way to say in the middle, that this is an education format that needs to be inclusive. You should hear it. It's absolutely hilarious. She really tried to put a forum together with far left, left leaning, far right, and right leaning, but found no voice in the middle.
Oh, because there's no compromise.
Apparently.
Compromise. And people get very defensive when you talk about educating their children and what their children learn. And you listen to some of the CRT stuff. I mean, it does lean into reverse racism, which is racism, and anti-racist. I mean, they're taking everything that we had learned, and I know he's probably went into detail on this, so I won't dwell too long. But it's hard for you to bring that in when we've already been educated. We already know that people are equal. I mean, people are equal, so
supposed to be.
It's hard for people to really bring in a new way to look at that when we already look at it like we're equal.
Or at least we're supposed to.
Like colorblind. Like I was raised to
then
be
I'm not
colorblind.
giving you a license. Right.
I've never seen so many people want to be colorblind before.
Right. It's like, well, if you're colorblind, you don't get a license. That's, I know they have that thing in the Army. Like, if you're colorblind, they don't want you in the Army.
But it was supposed to be where you don't have to think about race. You don't have to take race into account. You treat everybody the same. Still that just didn't seem good enough. So now they have to say, oh no, people, you have to notice their race. You have to notice these things. You have to point out these details. Okay, well, that comes with pointing out the details. So you can't be mad when people point out the details now.
Well, we do have to speak of Eli and a number of people whose history was never really given the credit it should, and I think that may be part of the discussion, where some people are taking credit for things they didn't do and, just sort of, for lack of a better term, whitewashing the history and applying the credit or story to other people or other, that's something that we've done to ourselves over the centuries, that as we mature and get older, this needs to be not necessarily forgiven, but certainly given its space. Right? Because we are not the country we were in 1800s. I mean, we now teach, the higher education, the higher concepts of math used to be taught to students when they were in their 18, 19, 20 years old, because they were very difficult concepts to understand. We can now teach orbit, gravity, and some of those mathematical concepts to 6-year-olds. So we've advanced our education to the point that our combined knowledge is easier to digest and understand at a younger age. So we don't back when Aristotle was doing his classes, it was people in their 20s and 30s. See you, man? Who were able to discuss
but
these.
You can't do that. We couldn't do that with everything, especially pushing it on young minds. I mean, like, people want to talk about the gender, sexual conversations, and then you bring in critical race theory.
So what, you're going to start with the 90-year-olds and work your way down? You have to start with the children, because those are who
bring that
what
in
comes
to children,
next.
especially some of the things they're talking about, as far as it's almost like approving stereotypes and letting go and just, hey, these are the stereotypes. I remember I went through multiple training sessions and be like, where again, that you've been taught your whole life, hey, colorblind, treat everybody the same, treat everybody the equal. But then they try to train you culturally. There's different cultures, and in one culture this is approved, in another culture this is approved, and in another culture you do this. When you enter this type of household, it's customary to do this before you go in. I mean, there's culture that has to be taken into account, and I'm okay with that. Because I think that's the big thing that's stepping between all of us, is just the culture. Not so much as just the color of your skin.
Ooh, Okay. Do you remember the cotton gin?
Yeah. Never seen one.
Do you know who invented it?
No.
Just thought you might want to know this. It's been widely, throughout my history. I was taught that Eli Whitney had invented the cotton gin, and that Eli Whitney was a black inventor during the slave period. You remember any of that?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Eli Whitney, white as Wonder Bread.
Well, see? There you go.
So, obviously, some of our education has been skewed by the powerful. Again, history is written by the victors, yeah? So your education is going to be written by the victors. Your world history is going to be written by those who won. I mean, Germans' view of world history and our own back in 1939 was a little different than our own. You feel me?
Well, I think if the Germans won, yes.
All the history books would be a little different.
Oh, yes. Oh, we'd all be bad guys.
So there's going to be
terrible people.
So there's going to be some, not necessarily argument and pushback, but there's going to be a very difficult area to resolve, because we have, as a culture, as a history, as a human, as a race, as a human race, we have made these blunders on epic scales, going back to when we first started throwing rocks at each other.
Yeah, but at some point, CRT has been treated like an excuse to do low expectations and stuff. Like, oh yeah.
We don't need an excuse for that. We've been doing that forever.
I mean, like I said yesterday, when we were talking about law enforcement, standards should be heightening. We should not be lowering standards. Lower standards, and especially you don't say a large group of people can't handle it, or you talk to them condescendingly like they're not smart enough, and that they need this and they need, especially when you see many of them are succeeding without that stuff they're talking about.
Succeeding meaning that they're able to pay their own bills and get through life without being homeless and dependent on others? Or do you mean successful like Elon Musk?
Yes, I mean, I hear some white people go around acting and talking like people of color have no direction. There's no way they'll succeed, and anybody who is of color and has succeeded has given to some type of corporate greed, or
or it's part of an affirmative action program where they're being promoted not due to merit, but because they need to have a certain number of minorities in their numbers.
And it's a double-edged sword, because a lot of times when the CRT activists start talking, the ones of color, and they say the white people need to shut up, I listen to some of these liberal people, and I'm like, yeah, these white people need to shut up, because they don't know what they're talking about. They really don't know what they're talking about. They feel like they have to make things good for history and everything. That's not your job. Your job is for, you say it's for equality, or now they say equity. It's equality, because we're all supposed to be treated equal. We're all supposed to have the same shots and chances. And to say that history hasn't been unfair to some people, yeah, I mean, it's true. It's been very unfair, and some things do need to change. But when you're talking about changing testing scores to where they're harder for Asian students and you make it easier for other students, that's racism.
I don't even think that's possible.
Well, look at Harvard.
Right, but look how much smarter those guys are than we are. That was a joke. You didn't get that. Never mind. I'm going to let that sink in while we take a little news break. We'll be right back after these messages.
Such a complimentary thing.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWA News. The British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell has been convicted of helping lure teenage girls to be sexually abused by the late Jeffrey Epstein. Yesterday's verdict comes after a month-long trial featuring accounts of the sexual exploitation of girls as young as 14. Jurors found Maxwell guilty of every count except one. She faces years in prison. Maxwell's lawyers say she's being used as a scapegoat for crimes committed by Epstein, who killed himself in 2019. Presidents Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin are set to discuss the Russian troop buildup at the Ukraine border. The call, scheduled for this afternoon, would be their second in recent weeks. According to the White House, Biden will make clear to Putin that a democratic path remains open. The Russians have moved an estimated 100,000 troops toward Ukraine, and Putin has stepped up his demands for security guarantees in Eastern Europe. Back in the Cape Fear, with COVID numbers rising and COVID tests hard to find, New Hanover County Health and Human Services is hosting a free testing event today. The drive-through testing event runs from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Health and Human Services Annex at 1507 Greenfield Street. No ID or insurance information is required, and the results of the test will be shared in about 15 minutes. 630 tests will be available. Health and Human Services Director Donna Faco says they want to keep people out of waiting rooms to help stop the potential spread of Omicron. And at UNCW, students and staff who are unvaccinated will still need to take a COVID test before coming back to campus in January. Return to campus testing will happen in the Warwick Ballroom number 4. They begin testing Tuesday and run until next Sunday. Allow at least 45 minutes to be tested and get your result and clearance letter. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm meteorologist Helen Holt with your WWAY Storm Track 3 AccuWeather forecast. We'll see mostly cloudy skies today and warm temperatures, highs in the upper 70s away from the beaches. There's a chance for a few showers and maybe an isolated thunderstorm, a very small risk that those could turn severe. We'll have southwest winds 10 to 20 miles per hour, mostly cloudy tonight with a chance for rain, then patchy fog late, lows in the lower 60s. New Year's Eve looking dry and warm, highs back into the 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina, practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Listen to Tom Goolsby on The Chad Adams Show.
People with common sense know that the entire theory of socialism is one big lie.
The Big Talker 106.7 FM.
That's right. We're back at the Asylum on the Big Talker Online. We touched briefly on education and being in the school or having been in the School of Education. At the time, they didn't like long-hair rock and roll musicians. Okay, that's enough. So, learning cognitive processes in education was a very important course. And in that, we discovered how the developing brain takes in information, because we learn at the fringe of our experience, and if you don't have an experience, it's hard to associate new information with information you already have, right? So learning about math, for example, the concepts of adding and subtracting. You know, I have this many rocks, and I have this many rocks, and I put these rocks together, and this is now how many rocks I have. Well, now I'm dealing with so many rocks, I need to put groups of rocks together, and then I can count the groups and still know how many rocks I have. So these ideas and concepts that developed in the adults when we started our marketing, like how many loaves of bread for how many head of fish, and we're trading and we're coming up with values that the first cuneiform tablets that we know of are absolute marketing sales tracking. That's, it wasn't philosophical rants or waxing poetic. It was actual prosaic numbers. This is how much this guy owes me for that much bread. So our first markings were to understand that. And again, these were the adults of the time, which, given the lifespan was a lot shorter than ours, so you would say in the 20s because you're dead by age 30. So that would be the equivalent now of your 30, 40-year-olds starting the mathematic process of, if I have 5 rocks in a box and I have 5 boxes of 5 rocks, I know I have 25 rocks. Well, now we can teach this to 5 and 6-year-olds because the concept is now so common. Our brains have become more complex and our information has remained the same. So we can now take what we used to need to teach or, needed to be in our 20s to understand and learn, we can now do it in age 5 and 6, first, second, third grade. And that's what I think, if I understand what Sir Knight was saying, that the progress of our education is to improve and add upon our collective knowledge, which, if we stop the caterwauling, I love that phrase, and take a look at what we've done. From the time that we looked at the moon and understood gravity, Mr. Newton, by age 30, was able to understand this. Now we teach it to kids that are 18, 16, 15 in high school physics, because it's a very simple concept once it's understood. And when it's understood by somebody who teaches it and understood well, it can be taught to a 6-year-old because the concept is really, really easy to understand. It just takes a minute to walk through it. If you have difficulty understanding it, it can be illustrated in a number of ways until it's internalized. But the fact that people are scared of math or, it's their worst subject, and that is a deficiency, not just in the education program, but in the willingness of the students to not be a jerk. Oh, math is too hard. I don't want to do it. Math is not hard. You are difficult. That's very, very simple. The difficult students are going to make it a problem to learn. I think Jeff Spicoli is a great example of this, that while I can't remember Mr. Hand or whatever the teacher's name was who didn't think he was getting it, oh no, he understood it. He just couldn't regurgitate it in the exact language that you wanted. And I think that's going to be critical in how we move forward when educating. Because right now, our entire education is financially based. So if we lower the bar for the SAT scores, we can get more money for dumber students for our school system. And that money is supposed to be to benefit the kids, to make them smarter so that they can handle these concepts at a younger age. That's not it's not what I'm seeing happening. But I'm not in the school system 24/7 like I used to be. Just like other people may not be in their industry after so many years, their experience in the industry does give them some insight. Like Andrew Donaldson with transportation can look at this bottleneck of shipping and everything else and just kind of raise his hands like, man, this is ridiculous. There's so many other things we could be doing. But instead, we're going to argue over stupid little things, while the collective human achievement is sending the Space Webb Telescope out into space to look at the past. And I think the whole reason why we're looking that far into the past is to find out where we screwed up, where it all went to hell, where it all went completely sideways, and we lost touch with the fact that while you and I may differ in our political whatever, you still need to eat, I still need to eat. Yeah. I still need to work, you still need to work. Whether you want to or not, it's sort of our obligation to each other to take care of ourselves and each other. So there is no better than, less than. I mean, if your strength is cooking, or if you have no strength, you can develop a strength. And sometimes these strengths start at the same place. I am not too proud to say that if anything goes, I am a very good dishwasher. I am very good in the dish pit at a restaurant. I can hold my own, and I've done it. When everything went sideways in COVID and all the live gigs were going sideways and I needed money, I bebopped my happy self on down to the restaurant and said, hey, yeah, I may be in my 50s, but I can still clean a dish. You need some help? But we seem to have, you know, as Mike Rowe would put it, discouraged honest labor, honest work. And I also feel that my father's idea that the hard, honest work will make you appreciate the smart work that you can do. Because I can dig a ditch, or I've tried. I mean, I'm not muscularly built to do that. I've tried it, and it about killed me. But it inspired me to pay attention and read and learn about electronics, learn about circuits, learn about components, learn about how this all works, so that one day in the future I can steal a radio station, put it in my garage, and make it work. I mean, you may not need math the moment you're taking it. Oh, my God, I don't know what I'm going to do with all this trigonometry. Yeah, you don't know it right then. And it really bugs the hell out of me when somebody's posting, like, another day where I didn't use algebra. Okay, that's because you're ignorant. I use algebra and math every day, all day. If you think about it, if you drive a car, you are doing math in your head as you're driving. As in, if I make this left turn, am I going to get T-boned because I misjudged the speed the other person is going? So the other person is traveling at so many feet per second, and I have so many feet to get through this intersection, transversing his path, to hopefully not get hit. If I take off too late and travel too slow, I will get T-boned. If I'm paying attention and I realize he's far enough back that I have 1,000 feet and he's only traveling 10 feet per second, I've got a couple of seconds to get through there. But because we don't put the numbers to it and we don't actually look at it as a math problem, we don't see it as math. And then we go into math like, oh my God, 5 plus 3, this math is so hard. No, I'm never going to use math. Yes, you will. You want to buy a house, you're going to be using math. Right? When the Federal Reserve rolls out a 3.2% interest rate, you're going to be doing some math, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know how to do math, please do not go to a restaurant, because you will have no idea what to tip, how to tip, or what a tip even is. All right? So let's just start there. If you're ignorant to math, it's not the school's fault, it's your fault. And that's another issue that I have with the educational process is I never saw in my School of Education encouragement for the students to learn for themselves. It's all been, here's what you need to know, regurgitate. Here's what you need, regurgitate. Here's what you need, regurgitate. There was no exploration. Right? My school, I got in trouble a lot in my math class because I'd finish all the work because I found it fascinating and I understood the concepts. And then I'd be like, nothing to do. And I had an instructor who went to my parents and said, look, if you pay for the batteries in these little bits, Radio Shack has these kits that you could, at the time, where when I was done with my math class, I was encouraged that, hey, if you get done early, here's an electronic kit that you can build while the rest of the class struggles with their understanding. And I was encouraged to participate in math, electronics, and such. Did a couple of spelling bees. I think everybody should fail a spelling bee. I think everyone should win a spelling bee at some point, so that you understand that your position, not just in the world, but in your own academic understanding, your own academic career, as to where you are. And to recognize that smart people aren't bad, right? I mean, it was a bad thing to be a smart guy in my school because you're going to get beat up and given a swirly in the bathroom, right? They're going to steal your books, or they're going to steal your lunch money and knock your books and, basically hate you for being smart. That's the problem, right? I didn't want to be smart because I was going to get beat up, so I did all my smartness at home. And now a lot of these guys are wondering why, hey, I can't get a job much more than pushing broom and washing windows. But had you applied yourself during the time when you were given that opportunity? But the school system doesn't encourage that, really. A few teachers do. But the educational process as a whole is more interested in how to get that money machine moving, right? So I think it's really cool that all these kids have iPads now. We're giving iPads to every student. They don't know what to do with them. They can't even add. They don't understand Venn diagrams. There's so many concepts that are being missed that do not require any technology whatsoever to teach, like human decency, you know? How to disagree with someone and have an adult conversation about it, or a reasonable conversation about it. How to diffuse bullying. How to identify it. Because usually bullying is a reaction to that person's own environment, and they don't feel control in their own life, so they're going to exact that control and damage over someone else. Much like child abuse. The abuser becomes the abused. The abused becomes the abuser. I mean, these are cycles we need to address that go beyond the CRT crap, which is irrelevant if you can't get the kid interested in adding for themselves, thinking for themselves, reading for themselves. Right? A lot of the people that I talk to, I say, hey, what was the last book you read? Most of the time, they will tell me it was a book from high school or college. And they'll admit they didn't finish it and they had to use the Cliff Notes. When I was a kid, my mom went everywhere with a book. Paperback, novel, something. We went on vacation. She may not read the whole book while she's gone, but when she's got 10 minutes, she's curled up reading. We don't do that anymore. We have sound bites. We have news bites where you're given a headline and 5, 6 sentences after that, and that's everything you need to know to have your little argument. Because we're more concerned about being conservative or liberal. Oh my God, those liberals over there. Oh my God, those conservatives. No. If we can get away from that, we start getting away from the entire us and them mentality, which is what this is all based on. It should be a we mentality that we are trying to get to Mars. We are trying to solve the education. Not that the Democrats have the right plan or only the Republicans know what they're talking about. No. Everybody has something to contribute. And if we get away from what makes us different, black, white, red, blue, whatever, there are too many axes to separate us and none that bring us together. Now, whether you're Democrat, Republican, black, white, yellow, green, whatever, there is not one of you who does not need to eat. You feel me? Every one of us needs to eat. Every one of us needs shoes. Every one of us needs food. Every one of us needs a place. So the less we separate ourselves, the more we can come together and come up with solutions for problems and improve the entire process. From education to politics to consumer-driven insanity. Like, if we were all adults, I don't think that Black Friday would ever occur. I don't think that would be a thing, right? Nobody would die. If we were all adults, if we were all well-educated and understood who we are within our world, we wouldn't have crime on the level that we do. But like Andrew pointed out, going back to the first legal documents we have, we've had these problems since the beginning of time. This is who we are as human beings. Can it get better? Possibly. Can it get worse? Well, January 6th told us it can get pretty bad. Is it the end of the world, or is it the beginning of the world? That's one of the things, you know, when you look to other cultures, you realize maybe they got it together, because danger and opportunity are the same symbol in, I believe it's Japanese kanji. The danger and opportunity are the same thing. It's just how you look at it. Is this dangerous, or is this an opportunity? Am I going to lose my job, or am I going to get a raise? Right? How did the guy in the World War II in the Navy, he said, I'm either going to get court-martialed or I'm going to get a medal. Fire. Right? Because he put all the math together in his head, and he said, that's my choice. You know, I'm either going to get an award or I'm going to get court-martialed. That's where we are. You got to get ready for these things. Anyway, we'll be right back after these fun messages. Oh yeah, the show is called The Asylum, and you are listening to The Big Talker Online, and we'll be right back.
Keeping Ocean Isle informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
Have you heard about Cape Fear's only fitness community exclusively for those over 50? At Full Circle Fitness, we understand that goals, lifestyles, and our bodies change through the decades, which is why our Living Fit After 50 is custom designed to help you get a safe, effective workout without spending hours in the gym. Get started today. Call 910-399-8350 or visit FullCircleFitnessNC.com.
Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWA News. The British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell has been convicted of helping lure teenage girls to be sexually abused by the late Jeffrey Epstein. Yesterday's verdict comes after a month-long trial featuring accounts of the sexual exploitation of girls as young as 14. Jurors found Maxwell guilty of every count except one. She faces years in prison. Maxwell's lawyers say she's being used as a scapegoat for crimes committed by Epstein, who killed himself in 2019. Presidents Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin are set to discuss the Russian troop buildup at the Ukraine border. The call, scheduled for this afternoon, would be their second in recent weeks. According to the White House, Biden will make clear to Putin that a democratic path remains open. The Russians have moved an estimated 100,000 troops toward Ukraine, and Putin has stepped up his demands for security guarantees in Eastern Europe. Back in the Cape Fear, with COVID numbers rising and COVID tests hard to find, New Hanover County Health and Human Services is hosting a free testing event today. The drive-through testing event runs from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Health and Human Services Annex at 1507 Greenfield Street. No ID or insurance information is required, and the results of the test will be shared in about 15 minutes. 630 tests will be available. Health and Human Services Director Donna Faco says they want to keep people out of waiting rooms to help stop the potential spread of Omicron. And at UNCW, students and staff who are unvaccinated will still need to take a COVID test before coming back to campus in January. Return to campus testing will happen in the Warwick Ballroom number 4. They begin testing Tuesday and run until next Sunday. Allow at least 45 minutes to be tested and get your result and clearance letter. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm meteorologist Helen Holt with your WWAY Storm Track 3 AccuWeather forecast. We'll see mostly cloudy skies today and warm temperatures, highs in the upper 70s away from the beaches. There's a chance for a few showers and maybe an isolated thunderstorm, a very small risk that those could turn severe. We'll have southwest winds 10 to 20 miles per hour, mostly cloudy tonight with a chance for rain, then patchy fog late, lows in the lower 60s. New Year's Eve looking dry and warm, highs back into the 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Folks, you know you're all looking for that special gift. Lines are long, traffic is frustrating, supply chains in the news. Just take a deep breath. If you're anywhere near Oak Island, come by Seaside Jewelers, 8801 East Oak Island Drive. Avoid the traffic, the lines, the frustration, and get that extraordinary and special gift. From high-end diamond rings to Larimar, from necklaces to bracelets, watches, and unique jewelry. And you also get one-on-one service with their experienced staff. Great prices now, just in time for the holidays. Come by and check out Seaside Jewelers, 8801 East Oak Island Drive.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
If you want to talk about culture and politics without all the caterwauling, then you'll love Heard Tell Radio with me, your host, Andrew Donaldson, every weekday morning, 6 a.m. with a replay at 3 p.m. right here on the Big Talker. Catch it on the Listen Live tab on the app or watch on the Facebook page.
That's right, all you flat earthers. It's time to get up. All of you who think the earth is flat have proven once again that the education system is not working. That's right, you're on the, you've got the Asylum on the Big Talker Online. And it's all about your mental health. I mean, I'm just going to put this out there. But the guys that designed and built the Space Webb Telescope probably don't believe that the Earth is flat. Right? These are the guys who know that we went to the moon and made it back. These are the guys, like, now in the 21st century, we're sending people to space as tourists. Now, they're not actually going, like, to the moon and hanging out and having a space bar. Not the one on your keyboard, but the one in space, you know, where you're on a little bar in space and you're having your little space drink and being stupid human in space, because that's who we are. We're going to be stupid humans no matter where we go. We're going to leave our trash everywhere, like we have on Mars, like we have on Earth, like we have throughout the solar system. We got Voyager 1 and 2 just out there. We took chunks of our own steel and silicon and wires and copper and put it all into this nifty little spaceship and sent it way the hell out there. We'll never see it again. Might be able to talk to it, kind of. You know, it's, what, a 2-year delay? I don't know how long it is. But not one of these people is a flat earther. So the fact that there are flat earthers is proof that our education system is a failure. Chemtrails, same thing. If people come at me with a chemtrail, I just stop the conversation and say, no, we're done. We're done. If that is your level of education and understanding, then we are done. Everything else that you have to say to me is pointless. I refuse to listen. Refuse. Absolutely refuse. And I would say, here's a book. Let's start at the beginning. I have 1 apple, 1 banana. That does not mean I have 2 apples. It means I have an apple and a banana. You give me 3 more apples, it doesn't mean I have 4. It means I have, well, if I have 1 apple, you give me 3, I have 4 apples and 1 banana. I don't have 5. I have 5 pieces of fruit, 4 of which are apples, 1 of which is a banana. We can't seem to get these simple facts straight enough. Like flat earth or chemtrails. I mean, those are the two that really burn my butt. If you don't understand the atmosphere, if you don't understand fluid dynamics, if you don't understand humidity, then there's a couple of courses. I mean, you can go to Brunswick County Community, or what do they call it? Brunswick Community College. Not only can you learn that, you can learn from our friend Joe Hunting, the sponsor of the Big Talker Online's internet service. He teaches a course called Financial Wisdom for Today. And again, this is education that the schools, the public system, does not give us. Home economics has been gutted. They used to teach everything from, like, how to change a flat tire, how to balance your checkbook, how to, you know, how mortgages work, and we don't get that anymore. So Joe Hunting has put a class together, runs them morning and the evening starting January 12. He's got another one starting in April, or one in March and one in April, both morning and evening classes available, to help us make better decisions and understand how these decisions affect what we are going to do 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Because when you buy a house, for example, and you put down a 30-year mortgage, it's hard for any one of us to think 30 years down the road. And that's where I think Joe is very good at explaining how we get 30 years down the road without being broke. Hey, caller, you're on the air.
Hi, is Sinister in this morning?
No, I don't think he's made it awake yet. Who's this?
This is his buddy Will. He told
Morning,
me to
Will.
call into the show this morning. How are you doing?
Well, it's good that you made it into the show, but I haven't heard anything from Mr. Sinister yet.
Yeah, he tends to try to sleep in sometimes.
Which is hard to do when you're running a morning program.
That is very difficult to do when you're running a morning program. You got to get up in the morning to make that work.
So let me ask you, are you a flat earther?
Am I a flat earther? There's some... I'm not a flat earther, but there are a couple of things that I can't get by. And one of them is crepuscular rays. If the sun is that far away, the rays should come in at parallel angles instead of diverge from the source of light. And it's very interesting, and I've done the experiments, and it's the one thing that I can't get by with the flat earthers. The rest of it seems like a bunch of nonsense, but that one thing, they have a good point there. So I don't know if you've ever read anything about crepuscular rays.
No, but I have studied quite a bit about how the rays of the sun are affected by the spherical aberration of our atmosphere, which is why we see blue light and gold light and red light at different times of the day, depending of the angle of the sun to the Earth's atmosphere, specifically.
Well, this is dealing with how the rays actually hit the Earth, and we're such a little tiny dot compared to the sun. All the light rays should be parallel to each other instead of diverging.
Can't be.
Well, according to if the light source, there's only a single light source a very long way away. There's a good experiment that you can do to give an example of this phenomenon. Is poke a bunch of holes in a piece of paper and take a flashlight in the dark and shine it through the piece of paper.
Oh, the slit experiment.
Now the crepuscular rays would only be crepuscular if the light source was really close to the piece of paper where the holes in the bottom of the paper. Now, the further you hold the light away from that piece of paper, all the rays are parallel. And it's a really interesting experiment. And I'm not saying that there's anything to the flat Earth. Whatever your theory, it is a theory. It hasn't been proven yet. But it's a very interesting phenomenon that I've done a few experiments with. And I don't know, I just can't come up with a tangible answer that makes sense with that.
Well, it can't. I can say this from the beginning that it can't. The sun is round.
The sun is round.
The sun is putting out light non-parallel because all the light
getting hit by a very small piece of that light.
But that light, none of the light hitting us is parallel to itself, because all of those lights can be converged back to a single point, which is the sphere known as El Sol.
Well, I agree with that, but have you ever tried this experiment?
I've done this. I've done the two-slit experiment. Yes, we did that in physics, and it was pointed out that while it looks like the light is coming from a parallel form, it's not. It's a very incongruous. However, if you run that experiment again and you use a polarizing light filter, it will fail, because the CPL will make sure that only the light in the same orientation will continue in that direction.
Now,
so if you have scattered light, if you have scattered unfocused light, the experiment will work. You will get that interference pattern. But if you remove...
Go ahead. I'm sorry?
If you were to use something like a polarizing filter that aligns the light so that only the light in one direction or one orientation gets through, then that experiment will fail.
That's interesting. I've never tried that part. I will have to try that. But I did try it with a round source of light. It's this round ball that I have. It's just a light.
Right.
And I was thinking that maybe coming from a flashlight, that the light was already coming in a parallel fashion. So I tried it in with the round light, and I got the same results. But I'll try it with a polarizing filter. I'm curious about that. It's interesting.
Yep. And that's the same thing with a flashlight. The reflector on the back is taking that round bulb, roundish bulb, and it's focusing it, which is a concave lens, right? So it's focusing it like my mag light does as best it can into a tighter beam. But it's still a very scattered light source. It's a very comprehensive. It's incomprehensive. I'm trying to remember the actual physics term. It's been a while, but it's a very scattered light. It's not all going. That's why a laser is so powerful. Is that all that light goes in one direction?
Absolutely, yeah.
Whereas the other lights are just scattered.
What do you think about the flat Earth theory? Is probably a good question.
I think it's a failure of our education system.
There's a lot of problems with it, and people can't really get away from the Earth to see that it is actually round. But we look at everything in our solar system. All the planets are round.
And even when we look at our own planet,
rotate, and we can see the other sides of it. So it makes sense that almost everything out there in the universe would be a spherical shape.
Yep, there will be some oblateness depending on how fast it spins and how molten.
Absolutely.
Right, but for the most part,
it would be gathered in a sphere of stuff. So if you're in a zero-G environment, that's what's going to happen. And there's a lot of interesting things about, the rotation points and orbit points of different things. You can't orbit anywhere. You can only orbit at certain places because those are where the planets
because otherwise
settle.
you're flying. Right. If you're orbiting the Earth.
What the term is for us. Lagrangian point or something.
Lagrange, yeah, Lagrangian points. Which is where the space, that's where the James Webb Space Telescope is going to be chilling.
It's in the L1, I think.
Yeah, L2. This was because Michael was on Andrew's show and I'm following it because I have the article now. It's they passed L1, they're going to L2. L1 is in front of us, now. L2 is on the far side of us, right. So L2 is on the non-side side of it. It's on the Mars side of the Earth.
And I've heard that they might run out of fuel before they get there.
They're already now on the internal power supply.
Wow.
So I do know that, and I do hope that we can get Michael in here, the guy who's involved. He's like one of those NASA smart guys. And I guarantee you he does not believe in flat Earth. I mean, I've never met the man, but I bet I can ask him that question straight off, and it would just be like a flat what?
Yeah, most people don't take time to really look at the rest of the information, unfortunately. So
now, as a filmmaker, light is very important to what you're doing when you're trying to shoot.
Well, where it's coming from and how you use it is very important. You can't just throw light on something and expect it to look good. You have to really take your time and figure out where the light should be placed to make the scene look the way that you want it to.
Like if you want that Vincent Price scary hard cast shadow, you would put the light really, really close with no silk, no screen, no Kino Flow cover, nothing. It would be a harsh bright light to make a harsh shadow.
Rembrandt lighting.
Yeah.
What they call that in film. So yeah, it creates shadows on the face. And it's usually a single source of light that they use to make those effects instead of having a overhead. Most film is 3-point lighting.
Yep.
You have a silhouette light, a bounce light, and a main light. And the main light is to give you your main light, but the other two lights are to diminish shadows and create a form inside that you can see that sticks out from the background.
A sense of depth, yeah.
A sense of depth, exactly. But, you know, a lot of horror films have different ways of doing the lights, such as the Rembrandt lighting is used quite frequently in horror films. So, and that's my main genre. I do...
Because it's very stark,
horror stuff.
right? It's very unnatural and very stark and unnerving to the eye.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it's interesting that...
And I'm on the opposite side. I'm trying to do, like, talking heads of smart people, so I want everything to be as clean and recognizable but still have depth. So when they're sitting in their office, I don't want the back wall and their desktop to all be in the same focus. I'm trying to
Absolutely, yeah.
peel them off the background, as it were.
That would be a good time for three-point lighting. So that's, it would give you all your distinction and, you know, make your forms really stick out. So, but yeah, it's...
and now you also deal with lenses.
I do, yeah. Lenses are another thing, you know.
And that's how it handles the light. That's how it gets the light.
It's how it handles the light, and more so how it handles the foreground and background with lenses. Your shorter prime lenses are for making the background blurry, you know, and the longer throw lenses are making everything in focus. And it's an interesting distinction. It took me a while to wrap my head around that, but
it is weird in how quickly the cost of a piece of glass can exceed the value of my car in a heartbeat.
They're usually the most expensive part of any camera setup.
Oh yeah, my bodies are $250, my lenses are $600 and up.
Oh yeah, so you can spend a lot of money on lenses, unfortunately, but
and that's where you should spend money.
That's where you should spend money. Anybody, you can take any camera that looks halfway decent. Is what a lot of people don't understand, and make it look really good depending on what kind of glass it's looking through. So you got to have a good camera, but you don't need a great camera. You know, it's all about the lens, all about the glass.
Oh my goodness, it looks like his call got dumped. I don't know how that happened. He just, I don't know, must have walked into a tunnel. Now, that's interesting. I've not actually met Will. I've heard quite a bit about him, and I understand his filmmaking is, you know, considerably different than what I used to do or still do is for television, where mine is more straight information, talking head, education, and I want everything to be nice and clean and clear, and there's no emotional pull that I'm trying to make. But in Will's case, he's trying to create emotional responses to each environment, you know, setting up the horror and what actually happens in the horror, that you're being emotionally jerked around by the lighting and the shooting styles. You know, we didn't even get into like Dutch angles where you're shooting at odd angles that make things seem unnatural, whereas I'm trying to shoot everything so that the viewer is as comfortable as possible. But we're going to use the same types of lighting. We're still going to use the same formulas to say, all right, how is this going to look? How do I want this to look? If I use a really long lens and shoot from the next county over, I can put everything in focus. Or I can get right up on them with a really good lens, and they are going to look cinematographic. Just amazing. And the background will fall off, and the term they call it now is bokeh. I'm used to the term depth of field, where the amount of your image that's in focus is mathematically based on the distance from the sensor. So if I focus 3 feet in front of my camera, anything 3 feet 1 inch behind it is going to be out of focus. So will anything 2 foot 11 inches. And that's parallel to, you know, it's not like a rotation thing. It's going to be based on my sensor. 50 millimeters from my sensor is where my primary focus point is for a 50 millimeter lens. And it all handles light along the same line. Some of it is scattered, some of it is direct, a lot of it is filtered. Then we also get into color temperature, where the color of the light of white, the white light on a wall, for example, is a little bit different under fluorescent lights than it is under sunlight or under studio lightings or a Kino flow or anything of that nature, which is all boring if you're not aware of it, but it's very, very exciting when you look at it behind the scenes when you're doing the work and as a student or learning about it, and you first set up your camera and you're like, okay, that's not what I'm looking for. How do I change this? And that's the experiment. Like, very few people have I worked with who have done the two-slit experiment that he was talking about on their own. I've done it in class on a number of occasions, both in high school and college. And it was in the college class that my professor, who was also teaching us about rainbows and refraction, brought out the polarizing light filter and ruined the two-slit experiment by organizing the light that was hitting the surface. But again, flat Earth. The fact that people believe in flat Earth is an example of a failed education system. This isn't political. This is just, we've even looked at our own planet. We look at our own planet on a daily basis from satellites that orbit our planet. So no, the planet is not shaped like a penny. It just wouldn't work. Accretion does not happen in 2 dimensions only. That's my point. So, education, folks, please read a book. Even if you don't have a bachelor's degree, it's quite possible to come up with, idea. You can read. You can ask questions. You can go online, and not everybody can call up Neil deGrasse Tyson and say, "Hey, how does this work?" But we have people right here in town at the University of UNCW. Yeah, we got people at the Brunswick Community College. We got people at the Cape Fear Community College. We got them all over. We got smart people everywhere. And that's why they're there. I don't know. Could be me. Well, we're getting close to the bottom of the hour, so I think I'm going to take just an extra moment to check my mail and get you to the news and weather that you will need for your wonderful time here on the East Coast as you're listening to The Asylum on the Big Talker Online.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWA News. The British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell has been convicted of helping lure teenage girls to be sexually abused by the late Jeffrey Epstein. Yesterday's verdict comes after a month-long trial featuring accounts of the sexual exploitation of girls as young as 14. Jurors found Maxwell guilty of every count except one. She faces years in prison. Maxwell's lawyers say she's being used as a scapegoat for crimes committed by Epstein, who killed himself in 2019. Presidents Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin are set to discuss the Russian troop buildup at the Ukraine border. The call, scheduled for this afternoon, would be their second in recent weeks. According to the White House, Biden will make clear to Putin that a democratic path remains open. The Russians have moved an estimated 100,000 troops toward Ukraine, and Putin has stepped up his demands for security guarantees in Eastern Europe. Back in the Cape Fear, with COVID numbers rising and COVID tests hard to find, New Hanover County Health and Human Services is hosting a free testing event today. The drive-through testing event runs from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Health and Human Services Annex at 1507 Greenfield Street. No ID or insurance information is required, and the results of the test will be shared in about 15 minutes. 630 tests will be available. Health and Human Services Director Donna Faco says they want to keep people out of waiting rooms to help stop the potential spread of Omicron. And at UNCW, students and staff who are unvaccinated will still need to take a COVID test before coming back to campus in January. Return to campus testing will happen in the Warwick Ballroom number 4. They begin testing Tuesday and run until next Sunday. Allow at least 45 minutes to be tested and get your result and clearance letter. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm meteorologist Helen Holt with your WWAY Storm Track 3 AccuWeather forecast. We'll see mostly cloudy skies today and warm temperatures, highs in the upper 70s away from the beaches. There's a chance for a few showers and maybe an isolated thunderstorm, a very small risk that those could turn severe. We'll have southwest winds 10 to 20 miles per hour, mostly cloudy tonight with a chance for rain, then patchy fog late, lows in the lower 60s. New Year's Eve looking dry and warm, highs back into the 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina, practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
I am State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better place. Visit us online at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death.
Nah, you're walking through the valley of the Asylum right here on the Big Talker Online. That's right. Good morning. And we're talking about education. We're talking about smart stuff. Talking about going to the moon. One of these days, Alice. Pow, zoom, right to the moon. Back when we thought the domestic violence was humorous. We made jokes. Yes, we made jokes. Well, that was fun. I'm sorry we lost Will in the middle of the conversation. It just went bleep, and he was gone. I don't think he wanted to talk about the light that we use. A lot of light. Huh. Jaybird from Ordinary Times has an article here under their little 10-second news bites. I thought you might appreciate this. City officials in San Francisco want to delay the imposition of a tax on lawful recreational cannabis businesses to help them compete with illegal marijuana dealers. Cannabis businesses create good jobs for San Franciscans and provide safe, regulated products to their customers, Supervisor Raphael Mandelman said in a tweet. Now is not the time to impose a new tax on small businesses that are just getting established and trying to compete with illicit operators. Last week, the San Francisco Board of Supervisors passed an ordinance to suspend the cannabis business tax for the 2021 and 2022 tax years. That's pretty happening. I mean, keep in mind that the illegal drug dealers, the street dealers, don't have much of an overhead. It's not like they're paying rent or paying insurance or paying employees or electricity or lease or any of that or have insurance on their business and on their people. Nope, it's just a dude out there in a trench coat selling weed. So it's good to know that if you need a tax break and you're in San Francisco, you can open up a dispensary. I'm wondering if they shouldn't, I don't think, I'm going back to a story a while back where a little girl from the Girl Scouts had set up her Girl Scout cookie table in front of a dispensary and sold out in, minutes. Okay, so I don't think it was the kid who came up with that idea. I think it was a mom. If you've ever seen the show Weeds, yeah, that was mom setting that up. Hey, I know how we can get rid of we can get rid of 100 boxes in an hour. And that opens the door to another fun little rant of mine. The Girl Scout and the Boy Scouts. I think it was incredibly unfair how the Girl Scouts was developed. I mean, separate but equal? Okay. No, not so much. I don't know as much about the Girl Scouts because I wasn't in the Girl Scouts. But from what I understand, they don't have near the same depth of study that the Boy Scouts does. Right? Because their entire thing, I mean, what the Boy Scouts are known for, be prepared. The Girl Scouts are known for Samoas. Let's be real. There's not much else that the normal person on the street knows about the Girl Scouts except Thin Mints or whatever other products that are in those boxes. And it's not like the Girl Scouts are making this stuff. It's a factory that makes this stuff, puts it in a plastic sleeve, just like the Oreos, just like the other cookies that are on the shelves. But it's marketed just like Amway or Fuller Brush or Ponzi, Madoff. It's all run through this one particular funnel, right? I knew the man, met him a couple of times. I don't know him well, but his one client as a graphic designer is the Girl Scout. So his gig, when I knew him, was to create all the Girl Scout cookie packaging, the packaging, the banners, the little flyers, and all the stuff associated with selling Girl Scout cookies was his job. He put the little pictures on there. He did the layout with the text and, where the ingredients are. And if you look on the back of the box, it'll even tell you what factory did it. It's not like these girls are slaving over little bowls of dough and making the cookies themselves in their little ovens, little easy bake ovens that they got from the giraffe. Was it KB Toys that had the giraffe? Yeah. So maybe the Girl Scouts, had they had more life hack type, like the Boy Scouts, they teach you a lot of life hacks, like how to start a fire when you're in the middle of nowhere and it's downpouring rain, you can still start a fire. I don't know if this type of thing is taught in Girl Scouts. I know one thing that's not taught in Boy Scouts is fashion. Because I don't know if you've seen these outfits. I mean, they look great when they're all together, right? That's why it's called a uniform. Everybody is wearing one form, so you can identify your troop real easily. But it's not something that if you wear, and this had to happen as a boy. You're going to go do a Boy Scout thing, and you have to wear your Boy Scout outfit, your uniform, to school. And if you do this, if you wear your Boy Scout outfit, your Boy Scout uniform to school, chances are you will get beat up, shoved in a locker, and have your head shoved down a toilet and flushed, okay? That's just human nature undefeated right there. That's how we treat people who believe in stuff or have a passion for something. Same is true, the same concept can be taken a step further or to its extreme, where you have people shooting up people inside of a church because they can't get past what these people believe or look like. It's the same thing. I showed up at school wearing a uniform, so I looked different, and therefore I was subject to be singled out, beaten up, and shoved into a locker. Thank you very much. And I think that's kind of backwards. We should be encouraging the smart people. I mean, they kind of figure it out in college where the bully kind of says, oh, I'm not going to maintain my academic scholarship and the free ride of college and books and all this stuff if I don't pass at least one of these tests, one of these courses. So I need either a really smart girlfriend or bully a smart guy into doing my homework. That's how we treat education here. It's a tradable commodity. Here, if you take my test, I'll give you $50. And then, the smart guy slips on his little identification wrist or whatever and goes in and takes the guy's test. That's who we are. And they're cracking down on some of that. There was a Was it last year or the year before, one of the guys at the university had to flunk everybody in his class because the cheating on the test alone was rampant. And he was able to prove it. And he said, I tell you what, we'll do it again. I'll make the test. There is no pre, and I will administer the test to each one of you individually. No books, no calculators, no computer, no tablets, no smartphones. Nope. You and me. Spicoli style. Prove to me that you learned anything in my course, and I'll give you a decent grade. It was like that in music school. You do have to do an ear training course, in which case they take away everything. They take away the piano. Well, the instructor, your supervisor, whatever, has the piano, gives you one note, and you have to sing the scale that they ask for based on that note. And then when you come back to the end of the scale, they will check to see how far off you are from the note that they gave you. There's no hiding, man. There's no cheating. There's no looking on somebody else's paper. It's your experience. And that's where I think education fails, because we do, and it's only because of the numbers, you know, that we do these blanket tests, fill in the dots, fill in the little circle, we run the circle. We used to, I was told, like, they told us when we started filling out the little circles with the number 2 pencil, that it runs through a computer and a computer has to read it. You know, I found out that was a lie. My teacher has another one with holes punched out on the correct answer, and all she does is lay one on top of the other. And if it's wrong, she puts a red mark across it. It didn't go through a computer. Are you kidding me? If it went through a computer, we could have graded everybody in the nation inside of 20 minutes. But no, the teacher is actually going to sit down with another answer card just like yours, but with all the correct answers punched out. So she lays it over yours, and if your circle matches the circle she punched out, you get it right. If the punch out on her card is over a circle that is not colored, you get that question wrong. There's no explanation as to why you got it wrong. There's no conversation to correct the error so that you can get the right answer down the road. It's just a yes or no. You did or you didn't. There's no understanding there. And that's really not helpful for education. It's great for distilling a bucket of numbers into money. Hey, look, we had the best scores, so we should get more money. No. And that's kind of backwards, don't you think? If you have somebody, you know, if you have a school system in backwoods that's showing SAT scores in the, you know, double digits, they probably need the money. And the money, not just money like, hey, here's a bunch of money, get smart. That's where you're going to pay your teachers to do effective work. That's where you're going to pay for the equipment, infrastructure, and leadership so that those students have the resources they need to succeed at the same level as the bigger schools that already have money. And we base a lot of this on property values for that area. So if you're in a socioeconomically depressed area that has no businesses, it has no infrastructure, it has no industry, then there's no money. And of course, without money, you don't get decent teachers, you don't get decent equipment, you get leftover hand-me-down, busted-up crap from elsewhere, donations. And then you have a less effective education system. So if it's going to be equal and, you know, equal opportunity education for all, we need to look at how this is funded and how we distribute the resources that are available. Should they go to the richest counties in the state? Maybe not. Should we base our success rate on testing scores that have been curved to match the lowest student and the highest student? I don't. That's not how we get to the moon, man. That's not how we survive space flight. This is not how we develop new forms of energy. This is not how we resolve racial tensions. This is not. This is how we cheat. This is how we game the system for someone to walk away with more money than they've actually earned. These are the real discussions, I think, that aren't being handled. Like, how can we handle... We're already jumping into a battle about CRT in the classroom. We don't even have an effective classroom approach, concept, right? We're supposed to be educating and teaching our kids, but it seems that for as much as the teachers try, they're pretty much handcuffed as to what they can do. If you look at the education processes apparent back in Aristotle's time, back in Socrates' time, it was more argument. I mean, these guys were hammered and yelling at each other, but they were always fair. They always followed the rules of argument that you can argue the points, you can argue the discussion, you can argue the issue. But the moment you call somebody a name or call somebody stupid or say that's ridiculous, you pretty much knocked yourself out of the fight. Because if you can't fight fair, don't get in the ring. That kind of thing. And that takes its own level of education. So these people already had a level of education to be proper in their ability to argue fair, but they also had the knowledge that when they're arguing their point, it's an effective argument as opposed to a name-calling, rhetoric-spouting tirade. A rant, if you will, where it's just blaming somebody instead of actually discussing what the issue is, like what is gravity? It's a simple question, but it's a very complicated answer. We kind of understand what it is, and on the, the Sunday school version of gravity is what holds the earth together, right? All this stuff keeps accreting and grabbing, and the more stuff attracts more stuff because it gets heavier, and heavier stuff attracts heavier stuff. And it's pretty magical. It's, when you have enough of stuff together, you have enough gravity to bend light. I mean, that's pretty mind-bending. There are so many things that we could be educating on, but we're fighting over critical race theory. That's taking away from the ability to educate in the first place. And we say that we want to empower the teachers and we want to give them better pay, but we're still kneecapping them. Isn't that the term, kneecapping them? Because the results of their work is not measured by the success of the student's understanding of the material. It's based on a cold set of numbers generated from filling in the little circles with your number 2 pencil. It's more about how well you're willing to follow directions, more so than it is about understanding what it is you just learned and how to apply it in your future life. Again, getting back to the, oh, look, another day and I didn't use algebra. Yes, you did. You just don't want to admit it because numbers weren't involved. Again, anytime you drive, anytime you're in the store and you're trying to buy groceries and you're trying to make sure that you have enough money to cover not only the food, but Uncle Sam's tax on that food, so that when you walk out, your bank account isn't negative $10 and you've just added another $35 overdraft charge, as well as what other fees and such. And then the next day, since you haven't put the $45 in there, you now owe $100 because that's 35, and 10 is your initial 80, plus there's going to be other fees for being overdrawn on your account. But that's not math, is it? None of that is math. Turning left at a light and making sure you don't get T-boned by oncoming traffic, that's not math. No, not at all. We need to rethink how we think, I think. Math isn't scary. Math is what makes your car work. Math is why your alarm goes off at 6 o'clock in the morning. Math is how electricity gets to your house and powers your charger that charges your iPhone, or your cell phone, smartphone, so that you can navigate from here to wherever it is you're going, somewhere you've never been before, but your phone knows how to get there because of math. If you don't understand that traveling 60 miles an hour for 1 hour will take you 60 miles, this is math. It's 120 miles from Wilmington to Raleigh, roughly. At 60 miles an hour, how long will it take you? Yes, this is math. This is real-world math, and it is algebra, believe it or not. Because I have an unknown variable. How long is it going to take? I know my distance, and I know my rate of travel. The only component that is not explained is how long it's going to take. But with the other 2 bits of information, I can tell you how long it's going to take. Simple math. The same is true with some complications and some depth of, orbital mechanics follow the same thing. 1/2 AT squared falling into a planet or getting away from a planet. That's what that slingshot, the gravity assist acceleration, it's all math. The same math that you use to not get T-boned in traffic. Just because you don't have numbers on it doesn't mean it's not math. You do math every day. When you're making coffee, do you have too much water so your coffee comes out weak? Or do you have not enough water and you actually made espresso? That's math. A recipe is basically science in the kitchen. When you heat something, you change its properties. So when you cook meat from raw to medium rare, you have changed its molecular structure by adding heat. This is science. In science is math. All science is backed by math. Math is part of science. So STEM, which is, science, technology, engineering, and math is at the core of all of this. And it's the engineers who built the space telescope, James Webb Space Telescope. It's the engineers, the smart people who understand math, science, and physics, who built Voyager 1 and 2 that are still out there. It's these same types of brainiacs that are making the Starlink train of satellites for internet for people in Ghana or wherever. Math you use every day. I don't even want to give this guy a name on the screen. You're just getting kicked out. Goodbye. This is not that kind of chat room. You can take that Russian stuff elsewhere. So I am of the opinion that if we want to change the world and improve it, we need to start with education, and we need to get away from the financially motivated educational program and into the results-oriented educational program. And the education of any given student is going to be supported or not supported by their environment at home. So if the parents aren't into helping their children, I was very blessed that I had 2 very smart people as influences in my life. One was a medical doctor, internal medicine specialist, and the other was basically a nuclear physicist. Right? These guys have MDs and PhDs and master's degrees and stuff that I can't even spell. And they were able to at least get the curiosity started in me so that I would eventually have an understanding of the technological world that was developing starting in the 60s. And I would have something of a leg up because there wasn't computer classes in the 70s. Really wasn't. It wasn't until the 80s when I entered college that there was like, oh, hey, introduction to computer science. I mean, that's as far as they'd gotten was they wrote the introduction course. There was no other. They didn't even have a prerequisite. They were like, a good understanding of algebra should be good enough for you to, be able to take this course. And as Dustin pointed out earlier, they're now teaching coding to kids, in the late elementary, early middle school. To stay on top of that, we need a more effective results-driven education, and I think that would be done more by encouraging students to explore for themselves, which is how, because we don't teach them to learn, we teach them to regurgitate. What we need to do is like the original Greeks on Crete or wherever it was that they were having these discussions, is that you have to teach the students how to learn. Teach curiosity. Don't teach facts. The facts are already there. There's millions of books written on just World War II alone, for example. So if you're going to try and teach World War II, the best you can get is a regurgitation of dates. You can get a regurgitation of some names. But you aren't going to understand what happened. I didn't understand what happened to World War II until I was at the Military Channel editing a program called 50 Years Ago Today, all about what was happening day to day during World War II. So the development of the Battle of the Bulge, we know the name, the Battle of the Bulge, but we don't know what bulge it was and how it got there and how we almost ruined our entire operation at that time. Because it wasn't taught in a way that makes it something that we explore and learn for ourselves, that we discover, that our curiosity. And there's no relevance given to it. Like, why is the entire creation of, the entire existence of World War II, why should we study it? I mean, it was a very bad time. There were very bad people doing very bad things to other people. And that's no. We should teach World War II so that we understand how we got there. How the world came into such a condition that we felt the need to light somebody on fire from 50 yards away with this new device that we invented for this game called the flamethrower. Now, before my divorce, I would have never thought of even needing a flamethrower. But I get it now. So, yeah, if there's somebody shooting at you and you can't see him, I'm thinking, it'd be a good idea to burn that guy from 100 feet away. That's not a bad idea. But how did we get there? How did we get to the point that we dehumanized another group of people to the point that we felt it was okay to light them on fire? I mean, that's pretty ignorant, if you ask me. But with good education, everybody in Germany back in 1939 would have been like, yo, what's this about, man? Yo, don't you think it's possible that we can reinvent our industrial revolution, that we can be the insanely good German engineers that we are without slaughtering a few million people? Is that just not an option? If we're just going to go straight to genocide, there's nothing in between, rebuilding from the last time we got our butt kicked and genocide. There's nothing in between. There's no. Can't we avoid the fanaticism at some point? Apparently they couldn't, and apparently we can't now. And again, going back to education, we're all going by the soundbite. We're all going by the slogans. But nobody's looking at what's going on. That's the education. If you know how to read, you can read words and you can push the buttons and you can, follow the directions. But if you really know how to read, then you can understand what's behind the words. So if all you can read is an instruction manual on how to plug your VCR into your television, that's not education. That's not reading. Reading is understanding. Reading is a comprehension that goes beyond what the words are. What is the author trying to tell you, whether it's a fiction novel or something like In Harm's Way, which I highly recommend. I mean, you want to talk about a series of blunders and how it happens in such a large organization like the Navy. Excuse me. It was a naval event that just horrible what happened. And it was just a couple of small accidents, but the problem was you have these small accidents in such a huge, multi-million person arrangement. That one accident gets multiplied really fast. One error and hundreds of people are dead. So it's very, very important to have an education where the student is learning rather than being instructed. Because when the student is learning, they end up like Michael Siegel and they're flying spaceships out at the Lagrange 2 point. Right? Anybody else that I know doing that? Anybody else watching, listening, can do that? Call me up, because you'll be my new best friend. Because I would love to have somebody I could hang out and have a beer with and just kind of like, shoot the crap about, shoot the moon. What if we could just create a giant slingshot and throw this thing in it? They did that. The problem is it puts so much stress on whatever it is you're launching into the air that, sure, you don't need a rocket, but whatever you send up there is going to be just a puddle of goo because it went through like 57 times Earth's gravity G-force trying to get off the planet. You destroyed the very vehicle you're trying to send into space. Yeah, let's just stick with rockets for a minute. At least we know it works. At least they go up, they stay up, and well, for the most part, and other smart stuff like that. And I guarantee you, if you walk into any one of those and say, "Hey, the Earth is flat," yeah, they're just gonna send you out of there. Oh, a little early there, Simeon, but I get your message. It's the top of the hour here at the Asylum on the Big Talker, where we are no smarter than you are. We just like to make it look good. We'll be right back after the.
Keeping Charlotte informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach. We wouldn't sell you a dining room table, so don't buy a medical device from a furniture store. US Med Express is Wilmington's leading supplier of golden technology lift and sleep chairs, carrying a variety of models in our showroom at 1733 Dawson Street. Our chairs lead the industry in power lift recliner features and advances in technology. Our chairs are FDA certified as medical devices, which means it's 100% tax deductible and helps with a number of medical conditions, including arthritis, poor circulation, and sleep apnea. Give us a call today at 910-500-6162 or stop by and experience our chairs for yourself at 1733 Dawson Street. That's 910-500-6162. 1733 Dawson Street in Wilmington. US Med Express.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWA News. The British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell has been convicted of helping lure teenage girls to be sexually abused by the late Jeffrey Epstein. Yesterday's verdict comes after a month-long trial featuring accounts of the sexual exploitation of girls as young as 14. Jurors found Maxwell guilty of every count except one. She faces years in prison. Maxwell's lawyers say she's being used as a scapegoat for crimes committed by Epstein, who killed himself in 2019. Presidents Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin are set to discuss the Russian troop buildup at the Ukraine border. The call, scheduled for this afternoon, would be their second in recent weeks. According to the White House, Biden will make clear to Putin that a democratic path remains open. The Russians have moved an estimated 100,000 troops toward Ukraine, and Putin has stepped up his demands for security guarantees in Eastern Europe. Back in the Cape Fear, with COVID numbers rising and COVID tests hard to find, New Hanover County Health and Human Services is hosting a free testing event today. The drive-through testing event runs from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Health and Human Services Annex at 1507 Greenfield Street. No ID or insurance information is required, and the results of the test will be shared in about 15 minutes. 630 tests will be available. Health and Human Services Director Donna Faco says they want to keep people out of waiting rooms to help stop the potential spread of Omicron. And at UNCW, students and staff who are unvaccinated will still need to take a COVID test before coming back to campus in January. Return to campus testing will happen in the Warwick Ballroom number 4. They begin testing Tuesday and run until next Sunday. Allow at least 45 minutes to be tested and get your result and clearance letter. For more on these stories, head over to WWAY-TV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm meteorologist Helen Holt with your WWAY Storm Track 3 AccuWeather forecast. We'll see mostly cloudy skies today and warm temperatures, highs in the upper 70s away from the beaches. There's a chance for a few showers and maybe an isolated thunderstorm, a very small risk that those could turn severe. We'll have southwest winds 10 to 20 miles per hour, mostly cloudy tonight with a chance for rain, then patchy fog late, lows in the lower 60s. New Year's Eve looking dry and warm, highs back into the 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAY-TV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Listen to Tom Goolsby on The Chad Adams Show.
People with common sense know that the entire theory of socialism is one big lie.
The Big Talker 106.7 FM.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's time, once again, top of the hour, 9 o'clock, or about 5 after, something like that. You're listening to the Asylum on the Big Talker Online. We're having a great time talking about education, space, flat earthers, and all the other stuff driving you absolutely crazy. Yeah, all the other news programs, talk programs, stations are talking about all the news that are breaking right now. How people getting convicted of this and terrible things about that. But not a lot of news on the amazing things that human beings have done and are doing. Of course, the nerd in me goes immediately to the James Webb Space Telescope. That's definitely a big deal right now, I think. More so than some socialite who's been living a life of evil debauchery. I think it's more encouraging what we can do than what we have, the terrible things we have done. I mean, the court case that everybody's abuzz about right now is going to be gone, over with, and nobody's going to care in about 3 months. In 3 months, we're going to just start getting the first images of deep space from the James Webb Space Telescope. And that will continue for a long, long time. If we are to have a legacy, I would much rather it be the Space Telescope than what's going on in the court system that y'all are listening to on other stations. Just don't play that. If you want to go somewhere else, that doesn't have the same screaming and ridiculous rhetoric, plenty of other options. We are the oasis of sanity in this sea of this desert of vitriol and hate and such. And it makes a lot of money. I mean, sure, I could probably get a morning guy in here who would do exactly what the former morning guy did and just call people names and basically be a jerk to just about everybody who's not like him or what he believes in. Then yeah, plenty of that. But that's not what this show is, and I'm not saying that this show will last forever. But I would rather learn about what's going on and come up with ways to solve the problems. Because finding blame isn't going to help. Right? I mean, what's the old proverb? Break the dish. Throw the dish down, break it. Now say you're sorry. Did anything change? No. You still broke the dish. The dish is broke. Ain't no going back from there. Right? So if we had the understanding, knowledge, and awareness ahead of time that I'm sorry is absolutely useless, it's like a broken bottle on a life raft. It's just not helping. Oh, those libtards, not helping. Those MAGA heads, not helping. Education helps. And I don't mean education as in the formulaic educational system that we have here in America that seems to be the proven method. It's just gotten so large we have no way to wrestle this bear anymore. And keep in mind, this bear is made of money. He is made entirely of money. So the entire process of education isn't about making smart kids that are going to move us into the future. It's about money. How does your school get money? How does your principal get paid? How does he get a raise? Because all your students were able to squish their SAT scores into a particular range that's better than the next guy, or the smaller county in the heart of the place that has absolutely no infrastructure, doesn't even have a stoplight or a McDonald's, and you're going to expect them to compete in the same educational arena as the private-funded, ideologically propagandized school systems, where these people are groomed, right? There are schools like Eton on Thames in England. That's where those people are groomed. That's where those people are bred. That same opportunity is not available in backwater Louisiana. It's just not there. Because that's just not important people. And that's where the problem is. If we're supposed to be everybody's important and everything's important and everybody gets the same education, then y'all need to look at this a little bit differently. This isn't education. This is, as Carlin put it, you're just teaching them how to push the buttons, not how to vote. That's why my class back in 1983, graduating class, was the last year in my school system where civics course, 2 semesters, was required for graduation. Now it's not even an elective. I'm letting that sink in. Civics, the very basis of our governmental system, that we're not a democracy, we are a representative democracy, right? So we don't directly vote, we vote for a vote for a vote. We vote for the Electoral College to vote for the president. But it's the other votes that we don't put any emphasis on, and it was barely covered in my civics course. Everything starts right here in your neighborhood, whether you're in Pender County, Brunswick County, New Hanover County, Onslow County, doesn't matter. Wake County, Johnson County, doesn't matter. Most of what affects your life are the municipal elections that happen in your community, your school board, your district attorneys, your sheriffs. All of these people are voted on at the municipal level, and as has been pointed out by other people on the show, those are the lowest voter turnouts. We're all bent about red and blue and Trump this and Biden that. No. Y'all got it wrong. The reason why those were our 2 choices is because of the decisions that we have made, all 330 million of us, at the local level. So when 90% of us do not show up to vote in those elections, then we end up with the district attorneys that everybody doesn't like. But if you didn't vote, shut up. You're ignorant. If you're not willing to educate yourself to the point of what's going on in your own neighborhood, then you have no right to say anything about it afterwards. You have pretty much given away your right to say anything because you did not use your right to say something when you had the opportunity. Did I vote in the municipal election? I did. Did I know what I was doing? No, not really. And I admit it, because there's no education of that, those races, those people, those positions for the community. So instead of maybe devoting 5,000 hours of television to debates and panels and other crap for these national people that have very little influence on my life. Why don't we do the same thing for our local electors? Right? Cut away from The Voice or America's Got Talent or some of this other crap, like Kardashians or Real Housewives. Come on. That does nothing to help us. But understanding who's involved in our municipal elections and why these people are running and what they would do as a job when they do attain that position. That's where it matters. That's where you end up with the despots that, keep people in jail for 20, 30 years, suppressing all information to set them free because they run the county. They run the they run the court system. They run the jails. So, yeah, you could easily railroad somebody in a small backwood area. That's why people don't want to stay there. But you're not going to get a good education there. I mean, that's one reason. I want to be in a good school district. You mean the one that got money because they had better SAT scores than the other people did? That makes sense. Why not go to a school system that needs the help and be part of that help? I mean, that's an option. So instead of moving somewhere else thinking that the education system there is going to be better than the one you just left, when it's the same animal, it's the same bear, it's just a different paw. Or maybe you're on a shoulder instead of on the hip. But it's the same animal. It's still a cash cow that everybody's trying to appease. And the money is trickled down from the federal and state sources. But it doesn't equally apply itself to those who need it. Right? Giving away iPads, again, to every student is a waste of money. The iPad is not going to help the student learn because we are not teaching the students to learn. So if we change our education system and begin to recognize the strengths of students as they learn and correct their ability to learn, how to do research, how to read, how to comprehend, how to understand an argument, how to get past some of the rhetoric and caterwauling. God, I love that word. Thank you, Andrew. I remember hearing that word quite a bit when I was younger, coming from my grandparents. Now that I'm reaching their age, shut up. Yes, that word fits now. Because the moment I hear somebody saying, oh, those libtards don't understand, all of a sudden, all I hear is two cats fighting under the porch. And one of them's in heat. I'm not hearing any words. I'm not hearing any discussion. I'm not hearing any solutions presented or options or even ideas. Right? I mean, I got jumped on for this a while back, but there's a character in the, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Skye, I think was her name, her character name. And she had a line where, look, I don't have the solution, you don't have the solution. But if I have 1% of the solution and you're holding 1% of the solution, we find 98 other people holding 1% of the solution, we come up with a complete solution. But the more we call people out and push them away from ourselves because they're liberals, they're libtards, or a MAGA head. No. We need to get past those identities and say, okay, I'm a person who cares. Whether my shirt or my card says R or D is irrelevant. I'm a person who cares. And I don't have all the answers, but I got a couple of ideas. You may shoot them down, or you may, hey, the whole idea isn't stupid, but this little bit, this might work. If we put this with this other guy's idea, then maybe we come up with a way of educating the kids without burning through a boatload of money in a wasted space. And our kids come out being able to ask important questions. Well, they know how to ask questions, intelligent questions, learning questions. And if they can't get the answer from the person who's like, I don't know, those libtards ruined everything, then they can say, you know what, I'm going to go to a book. Or I'm going to find somebody who's not a pundit, somebody who's not trying to gain free money by running for office and doing nothing. And if you think I'm kidding, take a look at the attendance roster of just about every senator and representative in our government over the past 50 years, 60 years. Their attendance records are abysmal. If you had that attendance record at a regular job, you would not have a job. And yet we continue to elect these idiots. These freeloaders, because that's what they're doing. They run for an election on a popularity contest, which, you know, the election cycle for the most part is the entertainment industry arm of the, you know, military-industrial complex. It gives you a sense of doing something useful. But we know that if we eradicate the education involved necessary to make informed decisions and informed votes, then your vote can be bought with your emotions. If we run the right spot that makes you angry or makes you feel warm and fuzzy, then that's how you're going to vote. You're not going to vote with the intelligence and logic that you were given at birth with a brain. No. You're going to go with that visceral gut reaction, which is usually wrong. I mean, anybody who's been through a divorce will tell you the gut reaction, not always right. Had you come into it with a little bit of, you know, logic, Dr. Dre sure tried. He came into his marriage with a prenup and still got boned. So obviously that's not working. No, if we come into it with a better understanding of what's involved in the issues when voting on a bond or voting on a law or legislation, not just, oh no, I can't believe those hippies are. If you haven't read it, you don't understand it. And if you have read it and you still don't understand it, that's your education system. But hey, every student gets an iPad. That's what's important, isn't it? Everybody gets an iPad because that's what makes education. Has nothing to do with the fact that the entire government is being overrun by power-hungry despots that are banding together in these little red and blue groups and calling names and throwing rocks at each other. And they are counting on us, the voters, to be stupid, to not read, to not comprehend, to not participate, to not ask questions, and to only react to the emotional messages that they attack us with. I've done plenty of political commercials. And every time I walk away from an edit session on making political spots, I feel a need to take a shower. Like with mineral spirits, because I just feel disgusting and dirty having been paid to do that. And it's usually rock throwing. Almost always it's rock throwing. Look, I'm better than this guy because of... No. Tell me what your idea is. Let me know, tell me what it is you're trying to fix and how you're going to go about it. Oh, education needs more money. No. That just sounds like a record being played again and again. Education doesn't need more money. Education needs more attention. Education needs more education is really what it is for me. I could be wrong. And that education isn't necessarily limited to math. The education should be limited to things like finances. And that's why my friend Joe Hunting is a big part of the Big Talker family. Because that's his gig, man. He's got a class called Financial Wisdom for Today that's just too much for radio. So he's got a morning and an evening class starting January 12. He has one starting in March, morning and evening. And he has one in April. And this is the type of education that's going to pay off. Not only do you get to play with money in the class and learn how the market works and Wall Street and investments and all that stuff, you also learn when and where to make moves like buying a house. Do you buy a house? Do you rent a house? Do you buy a car? Do you lease a car? Do you finance a car? Or do you get an older car that you can pay for in cash? Right? These decisions that you make now will affect you in 20, 30 years because that's how long it takes to buy a house. When you sit down to get a mortgage, generally 25, 30-year mortgage. Do you really know where you're going to be in 25 or 30 years? How do you prepare for that? I can't answer that, but Joe Hunting, the man responsible for the internet that keeps the Big Talker online, he can answer that. And I highly recommend you take that course. He's been doing this for over 20 years. They won't cover it in a public school, But if you want to get smart, if you want to learn something that's going to affect you, yes, there's math involved. But this is the type of education that's going to be beneficial to your life. It will also educate you a little bit on how your vote, what it is you're voting for, affects the cost of your gas, the cost of your job security, taxation, commute, house values. Do people want to live in your neighborhood? Do they not want to live in your neighborhood? A lot of that is based on how money works. It's weird. So I highly recommend everybody go to the brunswickcc.edu website and look for Financial Wisdom for Today. And as a bonus, you don't have to be a Brunswick County resident to take these courses. That's right. And as soon as we get our phone system here fixed, we will have Mr. Hunting on quite a bit, because not only is he a very smart guy, he's really funny. He's older than me and has had more experiences that I think are more hilarious than my own. Probably because he's been a teacher. And if anybody has been a teacher, you understand how funny teaching can be. And of course, the higher up you go, the more fun it becomes. But I didn't get that far. I was just doing middle school math and science. And apparently they don't like rock and roll guitar players in the School of Education, or at least they didn't in the 80s. And yeah. So I went a different route and got a different couple of degrees and decided to do something else with my life. Because when I saw the final, after you get your bachelor's and you start working on your master's in education, the pay is just insulting. It really is. It's for the passion, the energy, and the demands of what the education system wants from their teachers, right? It's ludicrous. If I'm going to go to a 4-year degree and racking up that much student debt, you're not going to pay it off as a teacher. You'd better marry a doctor or a lawyer or Bezos if you have a hope of eradicating your student debt. Especially if you get some liberal arts degree, but you get to become a radio guy. I mean, that's what the last morning guy did. He's completely useless in the rest of the world, but his bachelor's degree in liberal arts, and he's a genius at politics, education notwithstanding. Just another example of how what looks like education really isn't. It's just, in that case, I would posit that Bachelor of Arts, liberal arts, is actually just I showed up for some of the classes and jumped through some of the hoops and earned a degree because I paid thousands of dollars for it. But the ability to solve problems or to investigate or even learn, read, that sort of thing, out the window. That's why it's great to have, cats like Heard Tell, Andrew Donaldson at the Ordinary Time with his Heard Tell. The Heard Tell is like a small slice of what's going on over at ordinary-times.com. It's like the Reader's Digest condensed version of these amazing articles that there's pages and pages and pages of it. And one of my favorites, just because, I'm drinking coffee and trying to run a morning show at 5 in the morning, is this little thing they have called the 10-second news. And it's kind of like headlines with a little bit more that takes you into what the actual argument is about, not the red-blue yelling and rhetoric. It's actually, hey, what's behind it? And it's, pretty good reading. It's just, I don't know if my reciting what somebody else has read is, good radio or not. This is one of those websites where you have the opportunity to learn because they get past the shouting, they get past the name calling, they get past the rhetoric, and they look at what's actually going on. Like if somebody's saying, oh, government's evil, oversight is horrible, regulations are bad. That's one point of view. But the problem is it's an extreme point of view. When the reality is there are times that government oversight is a great idea. For example, Food and Drug Administration. That's why we don't have anthrax in our Anacin. You know, that's kind of what they do. It kind of helps to have somebody regulating our food to make sure the food that's manufactured is safe for us to consume. Now, it can be affected by money, et cetera, and there's corruption and all sorts of ugliness, if you will, to any of those industries. But it doesn't mean that the government oversight is evil. It just needs to be discussed. It needs to be learned through education, through experience, through trial and error. Right? Doesn't work? Let's do something else. That doesn't work? Let's try something else. That doesn't work? Let's try something else. And if that doesn't work, we'll just take a news and weather break, and we'll wait till everybody is on the same page. Or we'll just keep yelling about it until it fixes itself. We'll be right back on the Asylum on the Big Talker Online.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWA News. The British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell has been convicted of helping lure teenage girls to be sexually abused by the late Jeffrey Epstein. Yesterday's verdict comes after a month-long trial featuring accounts of the sexual exploitation of girls as young as 14. Jurors found Maxwell guilty of every count except one. She faces years in prison. Maxwell's lawyers say she's being used as a scapegoat for crimes committed by Epstein, who killed himself in 2019. Presidents Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin are set to discuss the Russian troop buildup at the Ukraine border. The call, scheduled for this afternoon, would be their second in recent weeks. According to the White House, Biden will make clear to Putin that a democratic path remains open. The Russians have moved an estimated 100,000 troops toward Ukraine, and Putin has stepped up his demands for security guarantees in Eastern Europe. Back in the Cape Fear, with COVID numbers rising and COVID tests hard to find, New Hanover County Health and Human Services is hosting a free testing event today. The drive-through testing event runs from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Health and Human Services Annex at 1507 Greenfield Street. No ID or insurance information is required, and the results of the test will be shared in about 15 minutes. 630 tests will be available. Health and Human Services Director Donna Faco says they want to keep people out of waiting rooms to help stop the potential spread of Omicron. And at UNCW, students and staff who are unvaccinated will still need to take a COVID test before coming back to campus in January. Return to campus testing will happen in the Warwick Ballroom number 4. They begin testing Tuesday and run until next Sunday. Allow at least 45 minutes to be tested and get your result and clearance letter. For more on these stories, head over to WWAY-TV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm meteorologist Helen Holt with your WWAY Storm Track 3 AccuWeather forecast. We'll see mostly cloudy skies today and warm temperatures, highs in the upper 70s away from the beaches. There's a chance for a few showers and maybe an isolated thunderstorm, a very small risk that those could turn severe. We'll have southwest winds 10 to 20 miles per hour, mostly cloudy tonight with a chance for rain, then patchy fog late, lows in the lower 60s. New Year's Eve looking dry and warm, highs back into the 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAY-TV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
On a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you enjoy working out? Like most, you probably said 1 or 2. What if there was a place where you could go not only to get a great workout, but enjoy doing it? At Full Circle Fitness, our members look forward to coming in. Not only do they get a great workout, but they have fun doing it. Our coaches will guide you through a safe, effective workout tailored to you and your level of ability. Get started today. Full Circle Fitness, 910-399-8350.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
If you want to talk about culture and politics without all the caterwauling, then you'll love Heard Tell Radio with me, your host, Andrew Donaldson, every weekday morning, 6 a.m. with a replay at 3 p.m. right here on the Big Talker. Catch it on the Listen Live tab on the app or watch on the Facebook page.
That's right. You never know what to expect on the Asylum, on the Big Talker Online. We're just one big, happy, dysfunctional family right here, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, they're creepy and they're kooky and they don't cut their hair. And that's what makes us hippies. So I just ran across an interesting article because I love this place. Elizabeth Picciuto? I am not going to get that right. She's from the Ordinary-Times as well. How to suspect plagiarism. This was October in 2016, and apparently Tiffany Martinez, a student and aspiring professor at Suffolk University, was called out in front of her whole class for suspected plagiarism because she used the word hence. Ergo, Martinez described her own story here. I joined many others in at least suspecting that if Tiffany Martinez were a white male, she would have not been questioned and humiliated for using a word like hence. H-E-N-C-E, hence. Sadly, I've seen so many academics who are minorities commenting on the Martinez matter discuss how, while students, they felt that had to be super careful about citations because they were always suspected of not doing their own work. This is unacceptable. Look, of course, plagiarism is a plague. Like most college-level instructors, I've caught plagiarizers, but we should be extremely wary of falsely accusing students in general, especially if, as seems to be the case, we are disproportionately accusing minority students. So here I've outlined a few ideas. This is Elizabeth. I'm not going to do her last name. So here I've outlined a few ideas to help professors avoid a similar situation to Miss Martinez. Unlike Miss Martinez's professor never announced to other students your suspicions of plagiarism. It is no other student's business. Wow, what a concept. Never ever suggest a student plagiarize due to writing style alone. Not only is this immoral, this is incomprehensible to me. Has this teacher not had a variety of students of all apparent racial, ethnic, economic backgrounds who are amazing writers or formal writers or overly dramatic thesaurus denizens, etc.? And number 3, some possible rare caveats to number 2. I've had cases in which the writing style switched strikingly mid-paper for a couple of paragraphs or from one paper to the next. I've also had students use philosophical jargon that I never used while teaching. These have been red flags, and occasionally followed up on such has led me to find plagiarism. Note, it is unthinkable that one word alone, especially one that's unrelated to course subject matter, should itself count as a red flag. If it passes a plagiarism checker, see number 5 below, I'd either let it go, or in the case of technical jargon only, Google around a bit. If you still find no evidence, I'd personally give it up at that point. But if you feel certain there's a problem despite lack of evidence, you can ask students to visit during office hours and talk about the paper and sources without accusing them. I worry about even doing this since I might have a chilling effect on students, especially minorities, but I suppose it's better than evidenceless accusations, public or private. Number 4, most schools have a means by which you can grade your students' assignments anonymously. If you can take advantage of it, it's a good idea, in part because you won't fall into any traps of second-guessing matches of students with writing style. That's pretty cool. So you're just given a paper, you have no idea who wrote it, and you're just working with the paper that's in front of you. this is kind of how I got through English in college that I had sort of scraped through in high school. But my English teacher, who I thought was a friend of mine, failed me 3 or 4 times in a row. And then one day he said, look, if we have this discussion, I can't be your instructor anymore. But I can guarantee that you will pass English and understand what the English class is about once we have this discussion. Sure enough, I aced the next 2 semesters in English because he was able to explain to me as a student, as a person, where my error was. And as such, he had to recuse himself from being my professor for these courses. I could take literature with him later, but the actual 101, 102, which is sort of like the introduction to college level English, so that you know how to discuss, you know how to argue, you know what these, you know not to use straw man or kitchen sink or gaslighting. You know how to avoid these things, right? And number 5 in Herthiel, if your school does not have a plagiarism checker, use a free one for all your students' papers, right? So I find this to be one word, the word hints, caused a student called out in front of her whole class for suspected plagiarism because she used the word hints. So I'm guessing the teacher just said, wait a minute. You used the word hints, therefore, hence, you plagiarized. One word, and you're guilty of plagiarism. That's that. I don't think we can beat that. That's pretty gnarly right there. And of course, going back to the education rant, how is that education? Because the teacher, the instructor herself wasn't educated enough to understand the difference between plagiarism and the use of a decent word. It's not an uncommon word. But because of one word, this teacher called out a student in public, in front of everybody, and just decided to roast them erroneously. Right? I mean, what apology is going to fix that? What admission of guilt is going to absolve that situation? I would never trust that teacher again. I'd probably not ever trust that school again if it got further than that class. I'd be thinking, you know what? This school system needs to have its money taken away. Because apparently they're not paying attention to anything else. It's the money that's important, right? Is that not true for just about any endeavor? You're not doing it because you love it. I mean, most teachers are. Because God knows they're not doing it for the money. They're not doing it for the job security. I mean, one of the examples that Mr. Sinister presented a while back was, having a test in class or having something in class just to get the students thinking. And a parent of one of these students lost their mind. I can't believe that you're teaching this in class. No, we're not teaching it. We're just discussing it. We're using it as a launching point for the student to learn how to learn. To sort of draw their own conclusions and to go a little bit further into the subject. But the parent, the ignorance of the parent is what took offense. That to me is pretty amazing. Because now you're bringing the parental ignorance into the classroom and affecting everybody's child, every student, because of one parent's ignorance. And not enough money in the world can beat that back. You feel me? So a lot of the problems, a lot of the discussions, all of the problems, all of the discussions, I would even go so far as to say, can be at least addressed properly through education. Because we have a bunch of ignorant, yelling bullies running around the planet. Everybody's entitled. Everybody got a participation trophy. But I'm sorry, if you're a mechanic, I'm going to talk to you about, compression ratios. I'm going to talk to you about valve timing. And unless you can give me something to discuss as far as education, for example, I'm probably not going to go to you for an educational concept or an educational solution. Not first. We can talk about it, but I'm not going to accept that there's any credence that you have or I have over somebody who's actually been in the business and is looking, working, and striving for the very changes that are going to make this happen. One of them would be enforcing the civics courses at a much younger age, so that children, by the time they hit middle school, they understand the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch, and how it's not only at the federal level, it's at the state level, it's at the local level, it's at the municipal level, and that there's more to it than just those three branches. Each branch has its own events, its own structure, its own gestalt, if you will. Oh, I see you. Hang on. Don't leave. I have to get to that computer and then join with Google Meet. You Google Meet it over there, I hope? There it is. Look at that. Incoming call. Oh, you did it on Skype. Okay. You're cheating. I can't take video from this. Oh.
There was nothing there, and I felt lonely.
Well, I didn't see the other screen. I'm sorry. We need to coordinate our conversations a little bit better, I guess.
Well, no, that's my fault behind the scenes. I was supposed to be on here a while ago, and I had to go in the VA and do something, and it turned into a thing, which turned into a thing, which turned into an hour. So I apologize.
Well, not to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Stereotypical, but that is girls, and that is life.
Yeah. Life in the VA. Hurry up and wait.
So I'm guessing you didn't have a lot of opportunity to hear the 2.75-hour rant I've been on.
No, I caught some of the very earliest parts, and then I got tied up with the machinations of my day, so refresh me.
Mostly about how educational is the heart of all evil. Or lack of education.
Lack thereof. My father was a teacher, of course, and his saying every day, how was your day? He's like, another great day of stamping out ignorance. His view of education was you just stamp out the ignorance. You can't really teach anybody anything, but you can get rid of some of the ignorance because people have to teach themselves. We had a great piece from Becca DeMonistrates at Ordinary Times a couple of weeks ago. I'll have to re-up it. Educator who now homeschools her own children, but she's a trained educator, master's degree in education, and she talked about this very thing of
Is that Elizabeth?
Becca.
Oh, okay.
I can't pronounce her last name. It's one of the Greek words. I'm not going to embarrass myself because I'm already flustered at the Veterans Affairs situation I dealt with this morning. But anyway, but she touched on this, and she talked about what is the point of education?
Money.
And I have said this before. I will quote him again. Jay Bird, who's one of our OGs at Ordinary Times, ordinary-times.com. His line is prevalent every time I have this conversation. I use it over and over again. What is education in America? Is it going to be about teaching kids and giving them life skills, or is it a giant jobs program and daycare center? And we have decided through our actions that it is the latter. And we can say it's the former all we want to, but the way we fund it, the way we protect it, the way it's a sacred cow in society where it's above all criticism, reproach, and reform, our actions say we're treating it as the latter. And we treat it like the post office. The post office does not work. It's not efficient. It's a terrible product, but we cannot fix it because it's a giant, massive jobs program, and it's sacrosanct. We can't touch it. We can't reform it. And that's what's happened to our school system. It's the same problems. But we don't want to think about it that way because it's our kids and it's education and it's high-minded ideals, but we don't want to talk about it that way. But that's exactly what has happened. It's been bureaucratized, whatever the word is, in this administrative level that has exploded. Go look at the growth chart of the administrative level. The in-classroom teachers are not the problem.
Nope.
The students are not the problem. This administrative level of people. Well, I mean, but look, the students... Children are products of their environment. They're raising their children in their supervision. So you can't just blame the kids. Well, the kids are awful now. Well, that didn't happen in a vacuum. That happened in a sequence. And you're a part of the sequence. So slow your roll. You had a hand in that. But we don't want to discuss it that way. We don't want to understand that the school system is an arm of the government, and like the DMV and like the post office, it's not being well run. And it's not being well run because we can't
backwards.
It's being financed backwards because we're financing the wrong end of the funnel, and then we're wondering why everybody's falling through the bottom of the funnel. Well,
yeah.
Plus there's this great, here, I'll rant for a minute. You've been ranting for 2 hours. I'm going to rant for a minute.
Have at it, man.
I'm mad anyway. I'm upset. Not at this, at the VA. Anyway, your tax dollars at work. The problem here is we have bought into this lie for the last 45 years that every kid has to go to college, and we set up the entire education system as this funneling system to make every kid go to college. And it was asinine, it was stupid, it was bound to fail, and now it's breaking the system because you have all these kids that are taking on massive debt going to college that have no business going to college. It's feeding the colleges to have astronomical fees that are so disproportionate to the service they provide. You have the Ivy League and major institutions that have endowments that are the GDP of small countries, and they're untouchable and untaxed, and we can't say anything bad about any of them. It's just a big, god-awful, horrible mess, and it's never going to get fixed because we've made it sacrosanct that you cannot reform education, because now the teachers would have to take some blame, the administrative would have to take some blame, and the parents would have to take some blame, and the students would have to take some blame. Nobody wants any blame, so we're going to pass the buck, and nothing's going to change, and we're just going to keep throwing money at the problem, and the problem's going to keep getting worse. Obla-dee, obla-da, what are we doing?
And the schools that are failing are the ones that don't get money, and the schools that provide decent SAT scores are the ones that get funding.
You cannot fix education with money.
No matter which way you fund it.
There is no such thing.
Now, what
as
about
money
iPads? Like, if every student was given an iPad, they all get smarter, right?
They're obsolete in 9 months.
Well,
We've had computers in schools for 35, 40
yeah.
years. You put a computer in a school, it's obsolete within 9 months. 9 to 12 months, it's obsolete.
But that's what we're going to spend money on because that's what makes it look good.
It's a tool, because it shows up on a board somewhere and it shows up on a graphic of look how much I care, and here's the dollar sign showing how much I care. Meanwhile, test scores go through the floor. College acceptance rates are going to be skewed because everybody gets, 5.7s instead of 4.0s because we scale everything to
we're going to scale it all down. So your top score is now 100.
Now the gatekeepers, the higher education, they're upset that their gatekeeping is not as powerful as their gatekeeping once was, so they want to get rid of standardized testing so that they can go back to only letting in the right kind of people into the education, and the right kind of people are the rich people who can pay and or go into massive debt and or their parents can give massive grants if we let their idiot kid in the school that has no business being in the school, but their parents won't give us enough money to let them in. That's their market.
And they'll make enough they'll bring in enough money that whether the student learns and graduates is irrelevant.
It's irrelevant to learning because this is education is a business. It's we talk about big pharma and big energy and big coal and big tech, big education. Just start calling it that. It's big education. It's a corrupt, incestuous business model where the government and higher education have been in bed with each other to abuse the K through 12 students into a monetary indentured servitude where they want to plug them into the matrix, man. They just shove them through and make them go to college so they can pay us money. That's all it is. Anybody telling you difference, lying to you or selling you something?
Now,
because most of those kids have because we don't teach skills.
Right, we don't teach how to learn.
We don't teach well, they don't need them. We just need them to pass the test so they can go to college.
Yep.
We just need them to pass the test so we can get our funding.
Yeah, to get our funding.
The test. It has nothing to do with learning. It has nothing to do with educating children. It has everything to do with perpetuating a system that has nothing to do with educating or learning children. But we put that name on it, so don't you dare cut our funding because you hate children, you evil bastard.
Back when I was in college, I had a rather candid conversation with a political professor who was already burnt out. This would have been 84, 85.
I'll tell you how old
I'm tired of teaching kids how to learn when they get to college. Because when they come out of high school, they have a degree and they are completely stupid. They don't know how to read or read into something. They don't know how to extract information from a point. They don't understand that arguments don't start with name calling. There's so much re-educating they had to do before the student could even participate in college level discussions.
We're graduating kids out of high school that can't read.
Yep.
I'm not exaggerating. The standard college, high school graduate now, the reading level is like 8th or 9th grade now on aggregate. It's ridiculous. They can't read.
That's been the mantra in television, that when you're creating a program or a commercial,
you have to make it where they can't. Yep.
You can't go beyond an 8th grade vocabulary or concept. Look at your news.
But I was on the cutting edge of this because my father, who taught, his rant was always about education, was always how bad the teachers he was training was. And I'm talking, this is like 20, 25 years ago. Like, I'm a kid still, 30 years ago now. God.
It's about the time I was in the School of Education.
But my dad was just like, they're like, education's got no chance because these teachers know nothing because they've come through an education system that never taught them anything, and now they're the teachers, and it's going to get worse because the next group's going to know even less.
Yeah.
And now those are the people that are in their 40s and 50s.
And they're going to go into, massive debt.
They're in those administrative level positions now. Those are the people that are in charge, and those are the people my father was complaining about 25, 30 years ago, and now they're in charge of everything. So what do you think's coming behind them?
Certainly what was discouraging for me and why I got out of education after 2.5 years was I'm going to accrue a massive student loan debt and will continue to do so for the rest of my life.
How come we had let me stop you right there for a second. Remember 2008, 2009 when the housing market bubble burst?
Yeah.
Remember we were going to hunt down all the predatory lenders? Like, we have to restructure, like, we're going to get those darn banks. We're going to get those. Where's all those people at with the predatory lending that's involved in student loans? Because that's predatory debt. Because the people who are not allowed to get a loan for anything else in society.
Yep.
And you're letting them sign a student loan?
For way more than they have.
Oh, God, yes. They can't. Those same people can't get a $10,000 loan for a car, and you're giving them a $100,000 loan for school? In perpetuity, they cannot get rid of and discharge in bankruptcy like every other loan? That's criminal.
And what did you get for that $100,000 debt?
Crap.
Right. Nothing. I would posit that if a child is taught how to learn at an early age, they would have no need for school.
You know what? I'm going to get Em on the show for next week. Let me reach out to her because she's on the other end of the side of this because she grew up rural, grew up poor, went to school, went to law school on her student loans, and went into massive debt that she, spent half her life paying off. But she still thinks it's worth it because it made her become a lawyer and all the things, and she's very successful in life. So she has a different point of view on this. So
but she had to apply herself. She learned how to learn.
Yeah, well, she'll tell you it was.
She wasn't taught. She learned.
No, she had certain school teachers that inspired her. She had one particular teacher. She's written about it in ordinary-times.com. Go to ordinary-times.com, punch in M. Carpenter, go through her stuff. She's written about how there's one or two teachers that turned her life around and told her that she was smart enough and good enough. And she went to
she was in the very neighborhood that's affected by lower test scores, lower money.
Went to literally the Little Red Schoolhouse. Looks like something off of a freaking, one of those commemorative plates your grandma owned, right? 3 or 4 room red schoolhouse with the bell tower.
That's what my grandma taught in. That was,
the building's still there. She took a picture of it the other day, had it on. So that's where she went to school. Went to this little. My father went to a 1-room school. I'm only 41. My father went to a 1-room school through 8th grade. 1-room school.
I'm gonna have to take pictures of the one in Fuquay where my grandmother taught. But yeah,
I'm getting into all that to say this, but that was her way out. So she was okay with the bargain of it. But she became a lawyer. Like she's working. I mean, she's synonymous. M. Carpenter's not a real name. She's synonymous to protect her. Her job, she's an attorney, but she's not doing law because she's working for a major company, doing major things. Because of her lawyer background. A lot of people don't realize people use a law background then go into other things, right? But
because you learn how to read.
Well, because you can do contracts and you can do major negotiations like, doing stuff with the COVID stuff where you have to negotiate you have public companies dealing with the states and they have to work together. You have to have a law background to make all that stuff work. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah.
But I need to get her on the show, and we need to hash this out with her because she has a completely different viewpoint on it than I do.
And that was a very narrow path in which she was able to go.
But she wound up with a law degree. She didn't wind up with a humanities degree. She didn't wind up
with a liberal arts degree.
You can't go $100,000 debt for a degree in underwater basket weaving.
Right.
Or in French literature, no offense to French literature,
that's a legit
you're not going to
career.
make. Well, because the only career you're ever going to make money doing that is in academia. It's a self-feeding thing.
And you'll never pay off the debt because you're back in the school paying exorbitant price for a service that's not worth the money.
Oh,
been overvalued. And I guess it's overvalued due to the access to equipment.
Well, no, because it's a self-feeding thing because when you have those kind of degrees, you get a terminal degree, you can work in academia. So you have to perpetuate academia because now that's your only avenue for support and for making a living. There's nothing else you can do.
Like if you go out in the real world, you would die.
I mean, you just don't have a marketable skill. That's like when the last couple of years, when I was working at the trucking company, when we go to hire management guys, their degrees are almost worthless. We just quit looking at their degrees because it's worthless. Because I'm like, your degree is not telling me, can you work a 12-hour shift? Can you, we're talking about managing truck drivers here. Let's just be real. Can you talk to grown men and communicate and get them to listen to you and lead grown men who make 2-3 times more money than you do and think you're a punk brat? Can you communicate with them because you're a college boy to them? Because they've been driving trucks for 30 years and they know everything.
Yeah, they've been
You see what
through
I'm
the
getting at?
ways. Right. Yeah, walking the walk and being told how to walk.
I mean, people have stereotypes about truck drivers. The first conversation when my night line haul drivers, these are the highest paid, best drivers we had because they did the overnight line haul routes from Huntington, West Virginia to Indianapolis, which is a long haul. But that was the farthest out you could go in one night. That's how the networks work, right?
Okay.
So those guys, you know what the number one discussion every evening when they came in was?
Sleep.
Stock market. How's their stocks doing? How's their bonds doing? Because all those guys are close to their retirement. They're watching it every day.
Wow.
Hey, here's what the market is. Here's what, and they'll sit on a conference call all night talking to each other. Like, you don't understand how informed and how plugged in those guys are, and they're cranky and they're hard to deal with, and they know what they want. Can you walk in that environment? Which I could because I had a military background and I had driven enough to respect it, and I could kind of speak the language to them enough, but your college path does not give you those kind of leadership skills. Like, can you walk in that environment and lead, grown men that are in their 50s and 60s that have been doing this all their lives? Can you get their respect? Your college degree doesn't tell me that.
Good point.
So, especially in a management leadership is acquired skills. I mean, you can have charisma and things like that, but actual leadership, it's a refined skill. It's like a singing voice or anything else. You have to work at it, but it's a whole lot of just caring enough to get it right the first time.
What's interesting is that you're taking this from the higher education level, where I'm still pissed off at the middle school, high school level, and even into the elementary school.
Because if you don't have the end resulting product of a productive member of society, it's a waste of time.
But trying to identify where those corrections can be made.
My point is, we have an education system that is designed to funnel everybody into college when we need an education system that's designed to make productive citizens. We're slicing our own throats here because you have an education system that is designed to just get them to the 18 to 22-year-old age range so that they can make money off them. And then you wind up with a bunch of 22 to 26-year-old people that have no discernible life skills and aren't ready to be productive citizens.
Understood. We don't capitalize we don't capitalize or recognize strengths early enough.
No, because we're too busy jamming them into freaking standardized tests.
So at some point, maybe in the elementary school, a solution might be...
Well, this is changing because now, they're teaching coding in elementary schools.
Right.
Like, kids know how to design video games, and I know people are going to roll their eyes like, what is that? It's like, because if you design a video game, you can design a web page. You can design an app. You can do all kinds. It's a basic,
It says being able to type.
Being able to design a video game nowadays is like being mechanically inclined 100 years ago. Like that's your ticket, because that's the world you live in now. If you know how to make an app, if you know how to do code, if you know how to do web pages, if you know how to do multimedia, that's like being mechanically gifted 100 years ago, where like it doesn't matter the machine or the factory or the farm piece or whatever the case is. Hey, that guy's just good with tools. He can fix it. Remember people used to say that? The old timers like, oh, he's a tinkerer. He can fix it. That's the new tinkerers, because it's a multimedia world now. Those are the people. So that's why they're teaching coding in elementary schools. It's changing now. And that's why so many kids, that's why the higher education bubble is going to burst, because so many kids they're just going to opt out of college because, well, wait a minute, I can make this app and this website and I can go into business for myself. Why am I going to take out a $100,000 loan and wait 6 years to make money?
But I'm worried that there's going to be a market saturation where the value then.
But that's why plumbers are making so much money right now. They can't get enough of them. Yep. So eventually it'll flow back. You know, there's ebbs and flows to these things.
But we're going to have a million web designers, and not one of them can change a tire.
Well, what's going to happen is Amazon's already doing this. The big companies are just going to start hiring people right out of high school and do in-house college and train them the way they want to.
Almost like their own little military.
Well, that's the way you use. Here's an old fact: apprenticeship. It's nothing new. It's just a new spin on it. That's going to be the new path. Is you'll get hired into a major company. Walmart's getting ready to start doing this too. They've already started doing it, where you go to community college and work at Walmart, and they pay for you to go to college at the same time.
And Wendy's has a program kind of like that.
Yeah, that's going to be the new pathway for a lot of this stuff. Is going to be, they're just going to do everything in house, because you can't find people in the market, so they're going to just bypass the market and start making them in house and have their own pipelines.
And you have a better control over like the students that are there for the ride, or the kids that are there for the ride, and the students that are there to actually learn and improve.
And then you trade them. You know, we're gonna take care of your degree for you. We're gonna train you how you want, and then you have to work for us for 5 years.
Yep.
Or whatever the case. Which ain't a bad. You know, look,
military.
I'm in the military.
Right.
Yeah, it's the military model. I'm going to give you 6 years, and you're going to give me this, that, and
you just don't get shot at. I mean, that's a pretty big difference. I mean,
well, I think it's like 3% of the military has seen combat of any kind.
Oh,
it's
wow.
like it's low single digits.
Wow, I did not know that.
I mean, it's just something you don't. It's something you don't think about. It's for every one guy pulling a trigger, you need 100 people to support him, and you need another 1,000 supporting that 100. Is the way we used to teach it.
So when M comes on, the one question I would like to ask her is, what was it that inspired you to learn as opposed to being taught? What?
I know this story. I'm not going to spoil it for you, because I'll see if I can get her to come on the morning with all of us. I don't know if she'll do it or not. She'll come on with me, but
that would be awesome.
I know this story because it was she had a teacher who I'll just tease it for you. She had a teacher that literally had an M. Carpenter Day. Remember, M's not her real name, but she came into the classroom and it was M. Carpenter Day, and they had a banner with her name on it, and everything was purple, her favorite color, and they had an M. Carpenter Day at school when she was, I think it's 3rd or 4th grade, whatever it was. And they had an M. Carpenter Day. And that's where that answer's going to go through.
I can't wait to hear about this. Man,
yeah, she wrote it about an ordinary time. I'll send you the link. You can put it on the Facebook page for folks. But yeah,
that's definitely
she'll talk about that. Teachers, teacher told her that. But we don't have teachers that do that now. We have teachers now who have their entire livelihood, and it's not their fault. It's the job they're handed. They are told you got to get your test scores, because that's how we get our funding. So they have to focus on the test scores, not on the students. It's not all their fault. That's what I said. We're breaking the teacher-student partnership, which isn't fair to the teachers or the students. It's this administration level that's really screwing everything up right now. You got the wrong Donaldson. You need to get my dad on here, because he'll light that stuff up. So I mean, he's got 3 different master's degrees in education, including curriculum writing. Like he'll go on this stuff all day. He's like, yeah, the teachers are the problem.
And in some of the cases,
in-classroom teachers, it's the people that call themselves teachers, but they never see the inside of the classroom. He hates those people. Or he will rant on them all day long.
Or the people that apparently you can just take a certification test and become a teacher.
Do you know what you need to be in the state of North Carolina to be a substitute teacher?
A high school degree.
This is going to blow your mind.
High school diploma.
No, not quite that bad.
No idea.
I know because I used to have
25 years old
to do that.
and a clean record.
20 hours of college.
You don't even have to graduate, just 20 hours college.
20 hours of well, I think it's 30 now. I think they bumped it a little bit, but it's like 20 or 30 hours of college, basically a year and a half of college.
And then you take a certification class, right?
Remember this national certification stuff's been new for the last 15, 20 years. There never used to be such a thing. It's just an extra layer of administration.
There wasn't when I was in school. I remember the NEA coming out and doing presentations on all that.
Yeah, it's just another layer of bureaucracy to make more money, make teachers spend more money, make them go back to school and get their masters when they don't really need a master's, that sort of stuff.
Yep. When you don't need any of that just to become a teacher.
That's a whole other. And again, I don't want to criticize all teachers, but when you have certain teachers that they go to college to be teachers and then they go straight into their master's degrees, and then they go into the classroom for the first time and they're 26, 27 years old and they've never been in the real world.
Oh yeah, student teaching I cannot.
But they've been. I'm going to say this carefully because again I don't want to criticize everybody because some of them can handle this. But you take somebody from age 18 to age 25 or 26 when they finish their masters, and then you put them back into a middle school or high school environment. The world's already changed on them, but they've been in this bubble of academia, and then they go back.
And it's
you're setting them up for failure.
Yeah. And that's just not helping.
It is 10 minutes past the hour.
It is. And I thank you for your time. I'm sorry for your hassle this morning.
It's just there's two systems. There's the VA system and there's the referral system when you got to go do other stuff. And they have my stuff messed up in one of them, and it's so the two they don't talk to each other. So you got to physically go in the office and they got to hand jam it in there to fix it. It's just the joys of being a ward of the state.
Oh. Yeah. Well,
minor technicalities of life. The show this morning, we did a little clip show. Tomorrow's show here about 1 o'clock because he's on the West Coast. I'm going to talk to Todd Kelly. You remember I was trying to find a good story to review 2021 that's like a microcosm. Okay. I found it. Remember when Ted Koppel did the Mayberry story up in Mount Airy?
Yes. My God.
They've rehashed that. They got it on the front page of the Washington Post, and it ticked me off when they did it, and it ticked me off the reaction to it, and it ticked me off how they reacted to the reaction, and I'm still ticked off, and now they're
bringing it back
up as an example. I'm like, yeah, this is an example of what was wrong with 2020, but it ain't the example you think it was.
Washington Times, you said?
So, Washington Post. Washington Post.
Sorry.
I'm going to talk to Todd Kelly, who's a longtime, well-respected journalist. We're going to hash that out because I think that was a great microcosm for everything wrong. Because you have misinformed people going off bad information, and a media that came in and elevated, 6 people in North Carolina into a national narrative, which is another part of the problem that they don't want to talk about. And they're attacking. I'll leave you with this. They're attacking these people because they're saying that they want to live. They're talking about Andy Griffith, obviously Mount Airy. So they're saying, well, they want this idealized TV show that doesn't exist, while they're creating a TV show that's idealized for news media that also doesn't exist. But theirs is supposed to be righteous, and the other people are supposed to be the idiot rubes. That's what we're going to talk about on tomorrow's Hard Tell.
Well, that's going to get some people going.
Yeah, we don't do a lot of fussing, but this one might have a little heat to it.
Yeah. I can see that.
But anyway,
hey, thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you everybody who's listening. Because Monday's show too, I got Genya Coulter coming on. I'm gonna record that tomorrow. The first of the year, our elections expert. We call her the election ballot fairy. Going to be a great show, and I've already got it booked to do. J.W. Smith's coming on. He has a documentary about Moundsville, West Virginia on PBS. That's really good. It's free to watch online. Moundsville, just go to pbs.org and type in Moundsville. It'll come right up. It's about an hour documentary. But it's so typical. A lot of towns in North Carolina can relate to this. What does a town do when its main industry leaves and it has to remake its own identity? That sort of stuff. Going to be talking to him first of the week too. That documentary, because it's a universal theme. These textile towns, these industrial towns. What do you do when your main industry leaves? Now you got to figure out what you are as a community, right?
Yeah,
Good
suddenly not everybody can, switch to tourism.
No, and Moundsville, the thing about Moundsville was that was the penitentiary for years and years and years.
Oh,
So
that's where everybody wants to go.
No, they do. They have this booming trade of paranormal people that want to go in where it was a federal penitentiary.
Okay,
or the
that
state
makes
penitentiary.
sense.
So they have the death room and all that. But anyway, so they do have tourism. But when you have a community based on highly skilled, blue collar middle class work, and the blue collar middle class work all leaves, what do you left as a community? That's something that we need to reckon with. A lot of towns and a lot of communities are dealing with that, and it's not getting talked about. So we're going to talk to him about that.
Nice.
I think we have a really good little show going. I hope people will check it out and listen.
Well, we will be tuned into that. It's Heard Tell at 6 o'clock in the morning before the Asylum Monday through Friday. And he's going to have some good shows packed up this Friday and Monday, starting in the new year. On Heard Tell Radio, this is Andrew Donaldson from ordinary-times.com. Thank you again for your time, sir.
Anytime. Sorry I was late. I blame the government. You can literally blame the government on this one.
Well, to get them back, I'm not going to run a legal ID just to get them back. How's that?
Hey, free healthcare sounds good until you got to actually, go get the free part and realize that you get what you pay for.
Well, you pay for it in time.
And a lot of other ways that I won't detail on a family-friendly show.
Yeah, that's when it's not fun. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow. And I think we will have Andrew Donaldson with us tomorrow.
Ooh.
And I might even bring donuts.
Wu-Tang, I like it.
Yeah. All right, ladies and
Gravel
gentlemen.
Pit. I know this one.
You know this one?
That's Gravel Pit. Method Man leads it off. Just let it play.
The guy, he's kicking it. I like this. Once again, The Asylum on the Big Talker Online with Andrew Donaldson from ordinary-times.com. And we will see you guys tomorrow, but don't forget to catch Andrew at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Keeping Southport informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
Computer.
Well, hey, y'all, it's Holly Brewer.
And Amy Ludwig. And Kristen Ludwig.
From Just Think, the podcast. The podcast where we don't want to tell you what to think. We just challenge you to do it. We're happy to have some of our episodes featured right here on 106.7 The Big Talker on Saturdays at 11 a.m. So we hope you join us in the conversation and most importantly, just think.
MusicRewind.com and Mantovani, the legendary composer and conductor, along with his orchestra, bring you an amazing compilation of timeless instrumental hits on 2 CDs. Get Mantovani Moon River, a collection of 50 of his most popular recordings for the amazingly low price of $17.98 at MusicRewind.com. Or call 800-206-5002. Order now and receive a bonus of reduced shipping. Just enter or mention coupon code SONG55. That's musicrewind.com or call 800-206-5002. Don't forget coupon code SONG55 for reduced shipping. This offer is available for a limited time to U.S. residents only and cannot be combined with any other offer.
The Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association serves as the advocate for the building industry, advancing professionalism and promoting community involvement. We are a positive force for responsible growth while protecting property rights and the privilege of home ownership. 3 out of every 5 jobs is touched in some manner by construction in our region. Growth generates jobs, maintains our property values, and builds and updates our infrastructure. Join us Friday mornings for the Construction Connection with the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association and the Big Talker FM.
Hello and welcome to Consumer Choice Radio.
Christmas edition. Welcome to the program. I'm one half of your host, Yael Osowski, broadcasting to you from the heart of the Austrian Republic here in Vienna. And I'm joined on the other side by David Clement, who's out there in Toronto, Ontario. David, how goes it, good man?
Oh, it's going well. It's going well. A very Merry Christmas to all of those who are celebrating and listening to us. If you're listening to us on the radio on Saga 960 right now, you are probably driving to some sort of family get-together. Hopefully you are compliant with whatever these new strange rules are. I know everyone's kind of confused about what we can and can't do, but yeah, Merry Christmas to all of our listeners and to everyone who is celebrating out there.
And we keep it going. We keep on with Consumer Choice Radio. You guys can always go to our website, consumerchoiceradio.com. If you're listening on the radio, you can subscribe to the podcast version and listen at any time. Or if you are subscribed, thank you so much. You can also try out a Podcasting 2.0 compliant app and send us some Satoshis if you like the content that you're getting over there on newpodcastapps.com. You can find a couple of those. So, David, it is Christmas. We've got some interesting traditions. We've got some great, beautiful songs.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go ahead and play something that we put together over on the Consumer Choice Center side, and that is the 'Twas a Night Before Christmas Consumer Choice Edition.
Perfect.
All right. So let's play this for the audience.
'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the Airbnb, not a creature was stirring on the smart TV. The stockings were hung by the fireplace with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were finishing their long Twitter threads, while their Spotify Wrapped played in their heads. And Mama in her PJs and I, ready for a nap, had just settled down for a nice, ice-cold nightcap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I paused Amazon Prime to see what was the matter. Away to the window, like I was out of my mind, I told Siri to open the curtains and throw up the blinds. Mooncoin was high on my new iPhone Pro, and the streetlights illuminated the objects below. When what to my wondering eyes should appear but an emissionless sleigh with 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver, so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than 5G, his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted, and he called them by name. Now Dasher, no Dancer, no Prancer, no Vixen, on Comet and Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As an Uber driver does as they begin their route, when you meet an obstacle, you troubleshoot. So up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then, in a twinkling, I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew my hand and rose from my rest, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a negative PCR test. He was all dressed in fur, from his head to his foot. His clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. With a bag full of toys, he must have been sore, so I gave him some CBD cream, freshly bought from the store. His eyes, how they twinkled, he was back as St. Nick. His cheeks were like roses, my treat did the trick. His cute little smile was drawn up like a bow. Consumer choice matters in this house, which he did now know. When suddenly he vaped and cast up a cloud, he stared and he asked, "Is this not allowed?" I said, "Santa, of course. Switching is the right choice." He smiled, bowed, and began to rejoice. He was chubby as plump, a tale as old as time. But what was that flavor? Was it orange or key lime? A wink in his eye and a nod to my glass. I knew then I could sit back down on my ass. He put down his vape and he went straight to work, and he filled all the stockings. Then he turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, with one more vape up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team to give a talk, and away he flew upwards like Nancy Pelosi stalks. But I heard him exclaim as he drove out of sight, "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night."
And that's it.
Night Before Christmas, Consumer Choice Edition.
Yeah, narrated by someone who sounded very good behind the mic. I don't know who that was. Very well
Sure
done.
did. He could do some theater training, but that's all cool.
Yeah, yeah.